I'm going to say, is everybody pumped?
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, welcome to the show. I'm Dad.
We're live.
Oh, now we were in a second. Hold on. Welcome to the show. I'm Dad.
Okay. Hey, Dad.
Who are you?
I'm Jack.
Okay.
I'm Will.
Okay. So the thing that I got to talk about is the House Judiciary Committee today and the hearings they had. So they had Bezos, Pichai from Google, Bezos from Amazon, Tim Cook from Apple, and Zuckerberg from Facebook. Jim Jordan's a conservative congressman, and he wanted Twitter to be here too. What's his name? Jack Dorsey?
Jack Dorsey. Yeah.
Dorsey. Mm-hmm. But the committee wouldn't invite him for some reason. I don't know why. So the whole idea was an antitrust thing. You know, are you guys getting monopolies, that type of thing? But a lot of folks used it as, and Jordan did this, to say, here's the evidence that I have that conservative voices are being silenced on your platforms, and especially on platforms like Twitter. Okay. Mm-hmm. And he in his opening statement, he said that he goes, I was shadow banned, and so is Congressman Gates, and so is two other congressmen. By the way, all conservatives.
And from Twitter, there was shadow banned on Twitter.
On Twitter, they weren't there. This is just in his opening statement. And out of the 400 something people here, 4 of us, and we were the only ones. And he talked to Dorsey. Dorsey.
Well, that's
Jack
Twitter.
Dorsey. Yeah, he talked to Dorsey before, and Dorsey said, "Well, it's just the algorithm." He goes, "Well, does the algorithm have like Gates, Jordan, and something in it?" Because
exactly.
And so he brought up to when it was his turn to ask questions to Google. He said, "I have emails here that your folks were saying that you were supporting Clinton, that you were actually getting out the Latin vote, which is a good thing, but in key states. And when you're getting out the Latin vote in key states, and she's saying, I'm a Democrat supporting Clinton, that means that Google is trying to get out the vote in the key states so Clinton will win.
Yeah.
That Hillary Clinton would win." And, the Google guy goes, "Well, I'll have to look into that, but most of his stuff was I don't know what you're talking about type of stuff." And so Jordan's going off. So this clip I'm about to play is when the guy that's running the meeting. Okay, Jordan's not the guy running the meeting. Jordan finishes and he yields his time. Like, I yield my time. I mean, whatever time I have, I'm going to call on it later. And then the next person goes. Okay, and then you'll see what she says, and Jordan goes off, and it's not his time. Okay, gotcha. This is not his time. So listen to this.
The chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Pennsylvania, Ms. Scanlon.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'd like to redirect your attention to antitrust law rather than fringe conspiracy theories. Mr. Bezos, our investigation...
Mr. Chairman, we have the email. There is no fringe...
Excuse me.
It's not your time.
Mr. Jordan, you do not have the time. Please be respectful of your colleague. She controls the time.
Put your mask on. Put your mask on.
Mr. Jordan.
Mr. Raskin.
Mr. Jordan.
You want to talk about masks.
Mr. Jordan, Ms. Scanlon.
Why would the Deputy Secretary of Treasury unmask Michael Flynn's name, Mr. Raskin? And what I want to know is, when someone comes after my motives for asking questions, I get a chance to respond.
The gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, that's it. So, put on your mask. Yeah. And it wasn't even the chair saying it, because I watched, because I thought at first, but it was this other dude. I don't know if he's a sergeant at arms or if he's like, the Luca Brasi guy, like, put on your mask. Yeah. But it was also, up until now, there's a lot of people that go, the mask is a symbol of silencing us. The mask is a symbol of communism. And I was like, oppression. I don't get it. I see what you're saying, but I don't believe it. But here is a perfect example of where you could be seen where they want Jordan to basically shut up, but instead of saying shut up, they're saying put on your mask, which means shut your mouth.
I do wonder though if that comes from, like, it's almost like I don't know if retroactive is the right word, but because the idea that there is some conspiracy around the masks, that it's kind of been so put into the zeitgeist that now people are using it like colloquially to like as a shut up term.
Well, so
like which came first?
That's a really good point. So was he saying it like shut up, or was he simply saying put on your mask, and even unconsciously, it's basically put on your muzzle.
Yeah.
Right. Put on your muzzle. Because he could have said, it's not your time. Okay. Be quiet. Shut up. Okay. Oh, and by the way, the house rules require that if you're not speaking, you need to put your mask on.
Yeah.
But he was responding to his talking with put on your mask.
Yeah.
Put on your mask. Put on your mask. So I don't know what you guys think about that, or if you guys have any thoughts.
I think it's pretty wild.
My thought on the mask thing is, I went on unconsciously putting on your muzzle. I think it was just he's speaking something I don't like, and his first thought's his mask's off. He's just
what's the first? What can I point out that's wrong with him? That he's doing wrong,
right? Yeah, and he doesn't know what else to say, and he's just put on the mask.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, having an argument. Put your shoes on tie.
Exactly. Yeah, tie your shoes, sir.
Yeah.
So I would say yes to that, except that that's the second time it happened.
Oh, really?
Because in his opening statement, which I didn't play the clip for, he asked for unanimous consent that something be put into the record.
Gotcha.
And what they do is they say without objection, and if nobody speaks up, then they assume it's unanimous consent.
Yeah.
And somebody said objection. And so Jordan starts going off on the guy, and the guy's like, no, it's not your time, it's not your time. And you hear this voice again, put on your mask, put your mask on, put your mask on. And again, trying to shut him up. It's not your time to talk. So it's the second time they're trying to shut. Now, it's the second time Jim Jordan's speaking out of turn, too.
Yeah.
So
that's what I was going to ask. Did he have the right to object?
So he didn't, per parliamentary procedure, it wasn't his time. He didn't have the conch.
Yeah.
So it wasn't his time.
He was, yeah.
But the response, the visceral response, and it was said with the same tone of "put your mask on."
Was it the same guy, same voice?
Same
Okay,
voice.
yeah.
So it was that same. Sit down and shut up. Sit down and shut up.
Interesting.
Which makes me wonder that my dismissal of people who are saying the mask represents a muzzle and things like that. Which I said no, I don't see it as that. I see it as. I know what you mean by that, but I think you're reading something into it.
Yeah.
But now the folks that are on the left, who are the pro-mask, if you will, are put your mask on. Again, shut up.
Yeah.
Was he wearing a mask?
The guy that says put your mask on?
Yeah.
I don't know, because I couldn't see him.
Because I saw the video, and the woman from Pennsylvania who was making her statement, she didn't have a mask on.
Yeah.
So you're allowed to not have a mask on if you're recognized to speak.
Oh,
Okay.
gotcha.
So the chair.
So it could be contextual too. You're not allowed to speak right now. Put your mask on. So it might not even have anything to do with this whole social idea of the mask as a muzzle. It could also be hey, it's not your turn to talk. Put your mask back on. You don't have the conch in a sense. You don't have the talking skill.
Right. That's a good point. That's a good point. So it could have been. So if that's the case.
Yeah.
Is it still then that the mask? We know the mask has become politicized.
Yeah.
But is it really that the mask is a muzzle? The mask is a muzzle. You don't have the conch.
Gotcha.
So I need to muzzle you.
Yeah.
I need to shut your mic off.
Well, I was kind of gonna get into that shut the mic off thing. I wonder if it was just a contextual response that if the masks weren't there and if we weren't in the coronavirus time we are in right now, then they would have just said something else. It's not your turn to the same guy in that same situation might have said something to the same degree, but not having to do with the masks. But since the mask was a clear sign of you're not allowed to talk right now, regardless of the whole idea of it's a muzzle.
Right.
Might just be hey, it's not your time to talk. Put your mask back on. Sit back down. This isn't. You don't have the spotlight.
Put a sock in it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
But since 2020, it's
just got that.
Put the mask on.
Double meaning now.
Exactly. Right? It could really just be a coincidence. Because I personally see the mask as just a Band-Aid to a problem that we don't know how to fix. I mean,
yeah. So how do you guys see the mask? Because I know there's people in not our immediate family, but in our extended family, who are very concerned that the mask is step one.
Yeah, into communism.
Down a slippery slope that will slide quickly into communism and the muzzling of speech.
Yeah.
Which I got some stuff I want to talk about regarding that too, and those doctors that video got pulled. We'll talk about that later too. But what do you guys think about the...
Personally,
yeah.
I don't see it as that, and I see it more as just a public health issue, and I haven't read enough into this and seen all the conspiracies or counter arguments of why it is this. I've just heard from people on the internet and from our extended family this is communism, you know, like
Right.
Personally, I see it as just in the same vein, but a lot less harmful as like vaccines, where there's the anti-vaxxers and the vaxxers, and the anti-vaxxers are like, oh, it's a conspiracy from the government. But this is more of like, hey, we're just worried about trying to do the best we can to stop people from spreading it. And regardless of if it's effective or not, I think it plays two parts. And one, psychological, that like, hey, we're in this state, so you can't be acting normal right now.
Reminder.
Reminder of like, hey, something's going on right now. Because I think really quickly, I mean, humans are creatures of our environment, and like we're reminded, you know, by things in our environment. So if everything seems normal and you're not reminded, you know, when you're at Walmart or whatever, that there's this whole COVID thing, and you're like, oh, I'm back at Walmart again, shopping for groceries, you might quickly forget that like, hey, maybe I do need to be, you know, social distancing or whatever, taking precautions. And I think the mask is on that end a helpful reminder, like, oh, I am in this weird situation right now that's not normal, so I do have to be acting in a different way. But then also, I think
So on that, and Jack, you've done this because I know you've had some sports injuries before too. That sometimes you were to wear a brace for support, but sometimes if it's not its primary purpose, it had a strong secondary purpose of just remember, don't use that leg.
Exactly.
Like the brace is there, like, hey, as a reminder. And is that what you're saying? It's kind of the mask, the same thing.
Exactly. It's this visual and physical reminder, like things aren't the way they seem in a sense. Because I mean, the viruses aren't, you know, visual. You can't be like, oh, that guy's obviously
there's a mask.
infected.
Wash your hands.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
It's just an easy reminder. And then two, I do think there is enough evidence that shows that they've done, I don't know what the correct term of like the technology they use to say this, but some kind of like moisture imagery or like gas. I don't know. I'm making it sound more complicated than it is, but basically it's like showing people coughing or like spitting or whatever, breathing, and it's like shows like the heat and like the moisture coming out of your mouth and how much a mask actually reduces that on just one person wearing it, and then with two people in contact both wearing masks, it greatly reduces the amount of moisture and, you know, bodily whatever that gets put into the air. So I do think there is some benefit in it as far as just, even if it's minor, because I do think at this point we don't have vaccines. We have an operating procedure of like what socially we're supposed to be doing, but we don't have any like, here's the end all be all, even close to that of this is how we can stop the coronavirus from spreading. So it is really like, well, let's just try this and hope that it works. And it seems, at least in theory, that this is a good idea and that it should work. And I really don't see a problem with that or against, you know, our social liberties. Like, yeah, for the common good of everybody else, and even if it doesn't work as well as, you know, people are saying it's going to work, I think it's a decent thing to do for the people around you. And I don't think that there's some dude in DC going, this is the way we're going to get them by making them wear a piece of cloth on their face.
Step one.
Yeah, exactly. I do think stuff like Black Lives Matter, now that might not come from the government, I don't think it does, but that might be something that's more like talking about actual communism and socialism and, you know, Nazism and stuff like that. That's a more like obvious and I think real like threat to our social liberties and people getting stopped on bridges or, you know, people cancel culture and all this stuff and shadow banning. But I don't think, and I also just don't see how the effect of wearing a mask means you're not allowed to talk, other than like the psychological repercussion of like, I can't like see your mouth, so listening's a little harder because, you know, we listen visually and with your auditorily. So yeah, I really don't see it as this is your muzzle thing.
What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a little weird, if anything else, that people are actually connecting wearing a mask with some social perspective from it, you know, because I think the mask came from Dr. Fauci. Was
Fauci or something?
Fauci, Anthony Fauci. Wrong. And I understand the mask is, and I've understood this always, even back with H1N1, that a mask will greatly reduce the chance of you spreading it if you have it, but it's not going to stop you from getting it. Is that your understanding too?
That's my understanding from it. So I think where it came from is, I think, you know, the virus happened and just no one knew what to do. There wasn't an answer. You know, there was the whole maybe if we do hydrochloroquine, the sun, there's some studies showing maybe the sun is having an effect. I mean, I feel like it was just like a dartboard of all these scientists who are, I think they generally are trying to make the right calls. It's just, I don't think they have any idea what's going. Like,
it's too new for enough data to be there to figure it out. Really.
Yeah. So
you don't see the mask as being a. So let me put it this way: what if you had to spend the rest of your life wearing a mask?
Okay.
Because let's just say this thing never left, and masks was all we had, right? Would that to you be something that you'd say on a socio-political level? Whoa, time out. This is not America if I'm wearing a mask.
Yeah, personally, I wouldn't really care. I mean,
I don't either. I just
really don't think it's that big of a deal. Like, okay, I'm going to the grocery. Honestly, this might prove some people's points in a way, but I don't think it does. If I'm like in a store or I'm out somewhere and someone's not wearing a mask, I'm not angry about it. I'm just like, oh, that's weird. Like it's actually, that's the weird part in my brain. I no longer go places just because I think I'm so normalized to it at this point. But I go into a place, I'm like, wow, it's so weird that we're all wearing masks right now. I'm more just like, oh, it's weird if I see somebody without a mask. Or I'm watching like a TV show or something like that. I'm like, oh yeah, they're not wearing masks. Isn't that weird? But not again like, how dare they not wear masks? They're causing the coronavirus. It's more just like my brain has kind of normalized it in a weird way.
I think because we're in a global pandemic, I don't think this was intentional. When was it the CDC that eventually said we want wearing masks, or was it specifically the doctors on the staff
maybe both. I don't really know. And if people listening, actually, so this is on podcast platforms where you can actually leave voicemails for us.
Oh, interesting.
So if you're listening and you want to join in the conversation even late, we'll try to get to those. Or if you can put comments in YouTube, and we'll try to get to those and stuff. But I don't know if it was the CDC or if it was Fauci, but I know that it's from the states at this point. So we're in College Station, and the city of College Station back in April, I think, are the ones that said you need to wear a mask. And then I think the second round, again, it started with the local municipality, and then the state of Texas, Governor Abbott said all places that are public, like restaurants or anything like that, are going to have to wear a mask. Okay?
Gotcha.
And we're recording this at Texas A&M. Before we walked in the building, there were signs that said, "Cover your face."
Yeah.
So I don't think there's one entity saying wear the mask.
So it's the state saying
yes, but
wear masks.
But I think all of the states and stuff are saying you should wear masks.
Right. Yeah, and I don't think anybody's saying on the professional side like it's a bad idea and infringing on your health if you do. Like it's like really bad to wear a mask. So it's kind of like, well, it could be marginally good or more than marginally good to wear a mask, and there seems to be no negative effect other than people thinking that it's infringing on their free rights or it's communism. Yeah. So I really don't see the big deal. I'm like, dude, just wear a mask. I mean, if that's what's going to help other people. Yeah. Even if you don't think it's going to help you, why not just do it for the other person?
And because we're in a pandemic, if we weren't in a pandemic and there were vaccines and there was proven medicine to treat this like a flu virus or then I would think maybe that when we get to that point and they're still wanting, like, this is just the world we live in, we want now our culture just to be wearing masks all the time as health, because I think Japan does that, right?
Or Japan's been doing that for a long time.
They just do that
because of the smog,
right?
In like Hong Kong and stuff like that. This isn't Japan, but like in Hong Kong and stuff like that, in a lot of Asian countries.
But that's a communist country.
Yeah,
they got him.
Yeah, but I think they've been doing it. I don't know when they realigned back with China, but
1999.
Okay, it's been going on for a long time. I even see before the coronavirus started or any of these pandemics recently, I've seen people from Asia, like especially around Baylor. There's Baylor University. There's a lot of foreign exchange students from mainland Asia, and they're just wearing masks. And they've had like all the interesting designs and like hip masks way before the coronavirus.
That's the thing, right?
That's what they do because of smog and the population density.
Yeah.
Because their air quality over there is atrocious. And talk about like helping. I don't think that wearing a piece of cloth on your face or paper on your face helps with air quality more than it does with something that you can cough onto somebody.
It stops it from spreading.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think if we come to a point where we're like the people want to wear masks, then I think from that perspective, and it's just a part of our a social like culture at that point.
Yeah.
That if you want to wear a mask just because we're now living in a pretty dangerous, environment, I have nothing against that. But if we were at that point, but again, so the pandemic's over, we have vaccines for the pandemic, and we come back to a normal state as a country, and then at that point, they're like, the states are still saying, no, we want everyone to wear a mask all the time. That would be a little more concerning to me at that point than it would be now, because we are in a pandemic. So
right. It's not just in case, it's real.
Yeah,
exactly.
So for me, kind of like what you were saying is like when you go see people with masks on, it's normal, but at the same time, it's like, well, we're in a pandemic. We're in a situation like this, where it kind of makes sense.
Okay, so here's the counter to that. Okay, and it's not my thing; it's what I hear the folks that are anti-mask.
Yeah.
Okay, I refuse to use the term anti-masker. Anti-mask.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yes, there are a whole bunch of cases coming up, right? And we talked on the last show about how that can be wrong as far as there are some financial there's financial incentives to say there are more cases. And they would say, but look at the deaths. Look at the deaths. It used to be like 7,000 a week. It's down to like 100, 300 a week. These things aren't being reported. And here's the logic that it goes, since the deaths are so small, even if everybody's getting it, it's clearly not as deadly as we're making it out to be.
Yeah.
So why are, Jackie, you said, as long as the pandemic's going on. So that's where they say, this isn't a pandemic. We're overreacting. I know it's called one, but this is no worse than anything else. So now I am in that position, Jack, where it isn't deadly and you're making me wear a mask. And now it's, we need to rise up against the mask.
My argument to that is just because it's not deadly doesn't mean it's also not extremely uncomfortable. Because, a lot of these cases, it's 4 weeks plus when you're actually infected, and most people end up having a tube down their throat just to breathe. Like you're on a ventilator of some sort. You're hospitalized. It's very, very expensive. And I think there even is some inconsistencies. I've seen articles about it in hospitals charging. Like one person will go in and they'll get charged like super low for that, and then the other person will get like extra. They'll get charged very high numbers, like high thousands, like $10,000 for the exact same treatment in the same hospital. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of weird. It's kind of a side point. But it's not like it's the common cold. We're like, if I get it, I'll just be, sniffling up for a couple days, and I just gotta watch some Netflix and get an extra box of tissues. It's pretty serious to the point that just because not everybody's dying from it doesn't mean you're not suffering hard from it and you're not hospitalized from it.
And I've seen some interviews with folks that were definitely on the far right side of the spectrum that had it, and they go, I really thought I was going to die. And it wasn't because people were telling me there was a pandemic. That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
That's how I couldn't breathe, and I thought this was it. This is the worst I've ever felt. So you're right.
Yeah.
So it could be you're not going to die, but you're going to be down for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Hardcore.
Yeah, and then talk about like not being able to work just because of the coronavirus. You're going to be hospitalized. Even if you work from home, how much work are you going to get done?
And it's still highly contagious.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right? It's still very contagious. At least that's what we're told.
Yeah, and supposedly, again, I've seen articles on this. I don't know. I'm not a doctor or anything, but I've seen that it is in the new forms of it coming out as viruses evolve and stuff like that. It has become more contagious, where there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some I don't know if it's grooves on it or hooks or something like that on the actual virus itself that makes it easier to latch on and just more like aggressive in that sense. That like it's like where it used to be a certain amount of number, like you'd have to have like this much in your system or whatever, like catch it. Like it's lower and lower, that it's just easier to catch than it used to be.
Wow.
And again, I haven't confirmed these, or I've just read them, so I don't know how valid they are, but yeah.
Well, I think that's kind of the general feel for what's going on is. No, I don't think anyone really knows what's going on.
Yeah, it's true. And especially with the fake news epidemic in America nowadays, like what really is real, what's conspiracy, what's just we got to get the news ratings up.
Yeah. So the part of me that's conforming, would be, we're in a pandemic, it's no one knows, this is a new virus, no one knows about it. The CDC doesn't really know much about it. The doctors are trying to use, what they know to, do their job and help people by, trying to take preventative measures like putting a mask on and stuff. I'm fully on board with that, and but what kind of gets to a point where it's where you start asking some questions, it's like, we'll see Dr. Fauci talk about, okay, we need to, which I'm pretty sure he recommended to Trump and his staff, the medical staff, is like, we recommend as doctors to lock down our economy. Now, at the time, everyone was freaking out because it was going everywhere. No one knew what it was. And It was kind of, other countries were like Italy were shutting down and their death rates were extremely high. And if you looked on a graph, and if this continued, that it would have been as bad as the Spanish, flu.
Well, we were, right? I came downstairs that Sunday and I said, guys, here's the graphs I made of how it's going. Yeah. And this is telling me until we know more, we should just lock down. Yeah. And this was before any lockdowns happened in the United States.
Yeah, it was a couple of weeks before.
Yeah. So, so yes, I felt that way too.
Yeah. And I think that was the general feel around the world, where it was, okay, this is concerning, and when it was, so at the beginning, I think the doctors were doing the same thing. They saw that the potential for this thing, and they saw what happened with the Spanish flu, and I'm sure they were considering plagues and viruses that we're not even aware about, and I'm sure they were using all their information and resources and saying, if this continues the way it's going, and if everything that the CDC and other doctors are saying, this could wipe out half our country. So at that point, when there's a threat like that, I think taking measures to a very extreme degree, like the lockdowns and wearing a mask and the hand sanitizers everywhere and washing the hands and stuff. Mm-hmm. I think that was all necessary considering how bad the potential of this thing was,
and how little we knew.
I
completely agree. Yeah.
So at the beginning, I was all on board with it because I think that was one of those collective things that everyone wanted to be safe. Is
that different now?
I think that's what I think is. I think it's getting different because we have a lot of like you mentioned news channels and stuff. Mm-hmm. Smashing the doctors and the administrative staffs. Everything that Trump does is
the work of
terrible. We're saying terrible for the country. Yeah. And so this isn't conspiracies. Mm-hmm. This isn't some person saying Trump's behind this. This is the Trump virus. And the doctors are all trying to lock us down. And we're on this projectile path.
Trump and China are in cahoots, and they're trying to take over the world or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's not one of those things. We have a lot of news medias who are genuinely putting this information out there, and I think that's where it starts getting confusing because people start asking. Because the thing is, and I think we don't know anyone that died from the coronavirus. It didn't impact us directly.
Right.
I think for most of the country, that's the general feel. Like we keep hearing about these deaths, and we see these people.
And I haven't seen it.
Yeah. I haven't seen it.
My grandma didn't die from it. Yeah.
Exactly. Where if it was as bad as it was supposed to be, we all were going to know someone that either died from it or was hospitalized from it.
When the Black Plague happened, it was like usually a family of 5 would turn into a family of 1, or sometimes worse.
Right, right, or smallpox. Yeah, exactly. To a lot of families too. So you brought up something, Jack, about the conspiracy. Did you guys hear about the doctors that did the press release in front of one of the Washington, the monuments in Washington, not the Washington Monument?
No, I don't think so.
All right, so these doctors, I want to say yesterday, maybe the day before, there's a mic, and they're all wearing their white robes, coats, and they're they're a team of something like it's not like Doctors for Freedom, but it's something is their moniker. And they get out there and they essentially are saying, this is why the coronavirus is not as bad as everybody thinking it is. Mm-hmm. Okay. And doctor after doctor says, here's the data. Here's what I'm seeing with my patients. Here's what I'm seeing with my patients. Here's when I give them Zithromax and
hydrochloroquine.
Hydrochloroquine. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. This is what I'm seeing. Okay. That video within the first 8 hours on Facebook gets 17 million views.
Wow.
Facebook takes it down. And then after that, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram, all the other ones that possibly it could have been up on, it goes down.
Interesting.
And then one of the headlines I saw this morning from, it was like CNN or MSNBC, but it wasn't Fox News, okay, was, this is the headline. Facebook takes down video giving false information on coronavirus.
Wow, yeah.
So
could they verify that with?
Exactly. Yeah. So, usually I hear a lot of interviewers saying, well, I'm not a doctor, but neither are you. In this case, one of the parties, they were doctors.
Yeah, a lot of them. Yeah. They were all
I'm pretty sure the journalists weren't when they made up the headline of it being, so it's...
my medical practice wasn't making enough money.
To your point, it's not even, it's wait a second. If it's not a conspiracy, it certainly seems like somebody's trying to feed us one side only. Not only is the stuff getting taken down, right? But then when that's getting reported on, it's getting reported on as, oh, that was a bunch of false, hokey stuff anyway. And I have to tell you, I don't know if this happened before you guys started paying attention to this or not, but Google was criticized when it went into China because it had to agree to be censored. That only the information that the Chinese government would allow to show up in the search results, et cetera, could in fact show up in the search results. And Google was criticized for allowing that to happen.
Oh, interesting.
How different is that in that I can't go on right now and find that video?
Yeah.
Voices are being censored.
Right.
That
was a joke.
Well, where would it be though?
Yeah.
I mean, unless it's on a website, right? But it wouldn't be on any.
Well, the interesting thing about that is Google. I'm going to get the statistic wrong, but it's close enough. Google, you only have access to like 10% of the internet on. It's something super small.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so there actually might be a lot of sites that do have this video, and if you search DuckDuckGo or any of those other ones like
BitChute or something.
Yeah, something like that, or Tor, whatever. You could probably see it because, and even if it's on Google, I'm sure Google's algorithm will bury it. So it might be on page 300 of Google, and nobody goes past page 1.
So to close that out, the doctors said, we're just going to do another press conference and say the same thing. We're just going to keep on recording it and putting it up there.
Yeah.
But it reminded me so much of how we were hypercritical about the lack of free speech. And
You're talking about real communism.
Well, yeah. So free speech, the legal part of the First Amendment of free speech is it's an inherent kind of right, and the Bill of Rights doesn't protect your free speech from me personally as a private individual. It's from the government, but it recognizes it as a right.
Yeah.
But it's a right of expression, but also the free press. The whole idea of the free press is that we've got to make sure that the press isn't stifled so that all of the information gets out there.
Yeah.
And yet here we have a situation, whether you believe the doctors or not, whether you think the doctors are kooks or not, the approach of we got to take it all down and then we have to not cover it up, but throw mud at it as, they were sending out false information. So anybody that reads that headline, because we tend to only read headlines, thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God they took that down because we can't have false information.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's for the common good or whatever.
Right.
But I think it also...
And there's like a weird cancel culture to that.
No, yeah, 100%. I think it's also that whole situation and situations like this implies that these big data companies are like our dads in a sense. Like they're the ones that, we know best, we'll protect all of you guys, and we'll make sure we weed out all the crap, if you will. But it's totally infringing on free speech. Not from, I know they're not the government, so it's not like technically infringing on free speech, but I do think...
It's the same result.
Yeah, it is. It's the same effect. Yeah. And I just think that's just not their place. I mean, their whole purpose, and I think from the beginning they would admit this, I don't know if they admit this now anymore, but it's a place for people to post and have conversations, and we kind of just give you the platform and we'll advertise to you and make some money off of you guys because you're using our services. But this is ultimately for people to talk to people. It's an online forum, and now it's turning into this come to Facebook for your news, and Facebook chooses they're the publisher, like we were talking about last time. That they become the people that are actually aggregating, the news articles. And
Zuckerberg admitted to it today when they said, "Do you do this?" He goes, "We don't do that. We do have some community guidelines. One of them being if somebody says something that could potentially be dangerous, like if they say, well, inject yourself with disinfectant." And then he said that. And if somebody's listening and I get this wrong, correct me in the comments, but he said something to the effect of anybody who's telling you to take what is it called?
Chloroquine.
Hydrochloroquine is in fact giving you a false information.
Yeah.
So he's making that judgment.
Yeah, exactly.
So in that admission, and I might be remembering it slightly wrong, but in that admission, he's basically saying that is our criticism.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
He's
not saying that. He's saying the thing he's saying is someone going to go, aha, that's what I'm criticizing. That you're not in a position to muzzle me or muzzle any information that I might want to get that might be helpful for me to make my determination about, whether I take this medicine or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if you heard about the doctor in Houston who treated 350 patients, and she had 100% success rate of patients with COVID. So, and what she did with all these patients is she treated them with
Yeah, you said it.
Yeah,
we all know
hydrochloroquine. Yeah. So she used hydrochloroquine. She used zinc and
Zithromac, the Z-Pack stuff.
Yeah. So wait, is this the doctor you're talking about?
So I think she was one of the doctors.
Okay.
But here's the thing, here's the thing. Yeah.
I have to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
Go ahead.
But real fast, you might want to get on this. I want you to hear it at least. The criticism of her was they had a video of her preaching the word of God, and they said she clearly has an agenda because she's a Christian, so you shouldn't listen to her as a doctor.
Wow. Says the people with the agenda.
Anti-Christians. Right.
Yeah. Okay,
So,
I'll be back.
yeah,
Formulate my thoughts.
Yeah. So this will be the not the mid roll, but the quarter roll. How about that?
Quarter roll. What do you mean?
So the sponsors want spaces within the podcast to be able to place to naturally roll our ads. That's why they want any. If we're doing sponsorships and ads, they would prefer that we are talking like we are now and say, Anchor.fm is fantastic. When we first started using Anchor FM, we got a sponsor right away. It was all for free, and I'm not being paid for this right now. So, but it's something like that. Yeah.
But we won't plan it. We'll just wait for Will to go to the bathroom, and then we'll just do that.
So we'll
have like 4 slots.
This will be a good break for it. Should we
wait? I have
go.
Okay, yeah. So
the Houston one. You're talking about the lady from Houston.
Yeah. So that. The news attacked her. They took her posts down on all the social medias. They said this was dangerous information, and they are saying that I don't know exactly why they're doing this, but this is what kind of makes me start asking questions. And the word conspiracy is such a loaded word.
Yeah, you're right.
It's one of those words that when you hear it, you're like instantly, okay, this just whatever I'm about to hear isn't true. This is fake, right? Yeah, and I actually probably would have agreed with you up until 2016 because there's just madness going on at the public level. So conspiracies usually are people trying to make connections behind the scenes, right? It's
Right. It's the Clinton and Rockefeller are at the Bilderberger Hotel in Switzerland or something, and what are they doing there? Let's speculate by trying to connect the dots on X, Y, and Z. But it's all speculation, right?
All speculation, yeah.
Until Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, seriously.
Well, that's what this is.
Oh, it's all real.
Yeah.
Is Bigfoot an alien now?
Yeah. Well, this is kind of what I mean. Like, it starts to make me ask some questions because even at the beginning when we played that video, the woman from Pennsylvania making her statements, she mentioned, I think she was countering Jim Jordan, and this is what set Jim Jordan off, is she accused him of using conspiracies, and that's what drove Jim Jordan off the hook because he has evidence in front of him saying this isn't a conspiracy.
Right.
I can support everything that I said, which I didn't hear, but I'm assuming this is, I'm sure what my impression was, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but is that he's saying in the antitrust hearing for these companies, why are conservatives being targeted specifically? And it's not going both ways.
Yes. And he says, I have the evidence.
Yeah.
So
this isn't a speculative thought.
it's like the defense attorney saying to the prosecutor who has the bloody glove and the bloody knife, oh, these conspiracies about, no,
Yeah.
this is evidence. And
Right.
it's an argument. I'm trying to get to the truth based on the evidence I have.
And
right?
I think that's what just happened in this hearing.
I think you're right.
And so it's getting to a weird point now where, for some reason, as a culture, whatever the left says is now treated as more true than what the right says, which there's just no reason behind that. You know, why would a political party have their speech infringed upon because of their political views? You know, and there's a lot of targeting that goes on and dismissing that happens directly to the right
Because they're the right. Like,
Because
you're conservative means you're old and your opinion's not valid because we're the liberals, we're progressive, and we're trying to lead America into the new age, and all that old stuff needs to burn.
It's like that Don Lemon or Don Lemon bit, like all those rude boomers out there, they think Trump's a smart one. You know? We're dealing with a bunch of idiots. We're dealing with a bunch of hicks. Last show, Will, you said, if you stay off the coast, you're pretty good. So you're dealing with all the people that are off the coast, and they don't know anything better, so they're falling for the Trump hook. They're falling for the Trump bait, but we're smarter. And but this is something
So
that
I have the iPhone 11.
I've had a criticism about this since I went to graduate school. And I went to a place where there were a lot of it was more the professors were like this. And they were teaching this in this political science program that, the more education you have, the more liberal you are. And they're showing us statistically. I remember in that class saying, wait a second, are you sure that's a statistically significant number? And he goes into the data, he goes, oh yeah, it's not. But
That's funny.
But I know, but the point was that's the narrative that, we're the smart ones. And so we need to be the parent here.
Yeah.
You guys, we're protecting you from yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not just protecting you from us because, I don't deal with you anyway, but I'm protecting you from yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Go ahead.
I would understand if they were taking that approach, if they could actually support what they're saying. So I was having a conversation today where it was, they were basically saying, we know what's best as the Democratic Party. The conservatives have no idea what they're talking about, but here's why. Here's why these conservatives, this is why their view is so radical.
Right.
And, they show a list of evidence on why, for example, a free market economy doesn't work. If they could show me that, if they could really, because I just haven't seen it. And I went into my political views very open-minded because I just didn't know what anything was. I didn't know what free market was. I didn't know what socialism was. I didn't know why people were arguing over free borders or closed borders. So I went in very open-minded. And so I looked on both sides. And I looked on the liberal side, and just no one was actually showing why something works. It's directly, it's all, maybe, I don't know what the word is,
Conjecture?
But what does that mean?
Conjecture? Oh, like I don't know, like conversation, he say, she say kind of thing.
Yeah. They're speculating based on how they feel, or we talked about this in the last show about the imaginary utopias of these things happening or something like that. Even if they're logical, they're logically consistent within themselves, they are missing main components of reality to show that it would never actually go that way.
That's what I wanted to get into.
You're doing well, you want to do, after Jack want to do that? Yeah, good.
Okay, so I think that might be what I'm looking for, but the soundbite or something like that, because when you hear free college, or you hear free healthcare, or if you hear open borders so we can be a safe haven for the world, instantly you're like, yeah, those all sound like good ideas.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Why would I not want free healthcare, or why would I not want to have free college, or why would I not want people to feel safe around the world if we're, truly a free country and stuff? So initially, I'm hearing these things. I'm like, oh yeah, liberals make a lot of sense. We want that. But again, I would hear both sides, and I would go to the other side. And then every conservative that I've heard has all supported what they're saying with history and facts.
Right.
So when I hear about socialism, I hear about free healthcare. This is what I hear. Why is socialism great? Because we're going to supply free, as government, we're going to supply free healthcare. We're going to supply free college. We're going to tax the rich. We're going to do all these things. And that's kind of the end of the argument, and then I'll hear a conservative part, and I'll hear, okay, this is why a free market works. It's because, and it's not what does a free market, what we're going to give you, it's like a free market works which I know all you guys know how free market works, but
well, to your point, I think to your point, if I say, Jack, vote for me instead of Will, and I'm going to give you a cell phone, okay? And if Will, who has a lot of scientific evidence, goes, Jack, vote for me because I got to tell you, these cell phones are dangerous, and he'll lay it all out for you, okay?
Yeah. And here's why.
And here's why, right?
And here's the studies that show us.
And I go, yeah, but Jack, I'm giving you a free cell phone,
right?
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
And so it's still a lot of this promising and with free healthcare, there's no such thing.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to pay for it.
Exactly. Yeah. Where's it coming from?
Yeah. I mean, you think about in free college too. I was just explaining to someone today, like we're being oppressed right now because college is so expensive, and we're not. People don't have the freedom to get educated. So the 1%, they're oppressing us. They're keeping us uneducated, so we don't know what's going on. It actually sounds very conspiratorial from the left side.
That's true.
From that the right is doing all these things behind the scenes that no one can see, and
that 1%.
we need to rise up and take this out.
Well, I think that's the same with the French Revolution. Was this whole idea of the rich are holding well, I think probably in that case it was a little bit more accurate, but I do think it was a lot of the same argument of the rich are holding the goods from us, so we got to go kill the rich, and then we'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll take the goods.
Because they're holding our stuff that we are supposed to have, and they're hoarding it. And it's like, I don't know if that's your stuff.
Yeah,
and this is the interesting part, I think, because if you, I asked this guy, I'm like, so you don't, when you say the 1%. I feel like you're saying it like the 1%'s like Santa Claus or something. Like the 1%'s out there, man, and they're coming after us and all this stuff. I'm like, well, hold on. The 1% is rich and famous. We all know who the 1% is. Right. It's Google, it's Amazon, it's Facebook, it's Apple.
I can give you names.
Yeah. We all know who the 1% is. Right. So
which one of them's doing it?
So either they're not doing it at all, which I originally would be like, okay, yeah, that's you're probably going a little off the deep end here, but you start seeing these things like cancel culture and stuff. What are these companies all doing? They're all funding billions to the Democratic Party. Yeah. They're all silencing conservatives, and when it's spreading false information, you look at these media outlets and they're primarily liberal. I would say 1 to 4. 1 would be conservative, 4 would be Democratic. But so I ask you ask the 1% that you're talking about. I actually agree with what you're saying. I think what you're saying might be true, but I think you're on the wrong side. Yeah.
Well, I also think your solutions are just too outrageous, because how about instead of free college, just more reasonable pricing? Because I do know that most universities, as much as they claim they're nonprofits, you're paying your coaches, millions of dollars for an easy job. because the only definition really of a nonprofit is that you're not profiting, but that doesn't include how much you're paying your people. So you can be a nonprofit and your CEO is making, $500 million.
If I can just put a finer point on it, you can have profit. It's just that the profit cannot inure to a private individual.
Gotcha.
So, I mean,
can't be like the stockholders are getting it or something
the tax
like
joke,
that.
right, exactly. Nobody's personally profiting from the profit of the thing. The tax joke is that Harvard is a tax-free hedge fund that happens to run a university.
That's funny. Well, I think
that's because they get all the benefits of the tax-free institution of Harvard University, but their endowment, is running like any other hedge fund.
Yeah,
So.
That's really
no. I think that's the case, and I think that of course we have to have operating costs, for things, and of course, the government just can't pay for all of that because who's funding the government? It's us. So we're paying for it one way or the other. Or we're invading a country for their wealth, and I mean that's not going to happen. At least I don't think.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
And there's these questions you got to start asking too. Is okay if we have free college, let's run through it. 2020 we're going to have free college for everyone. Everyone. Okay, so how's this going to work? Does this mean
what are the logistics?
So like, does every university still have a standard acceptance rate? Like, is Texas A&M's acceptance rate still going to be 68% or whatever it is, and we're going to have SAT, scores and all this stuff, or does everyone just get to go to Texas A&M? And if they don't, what colleges are they going to, and then how many people are going to these colleges? Because if you're a smaller college, you're probably not going to have the funds as, say, like an SEC college.
Well, I agree. And to your point, I also think one of the things that people aren't considering, because they go, well, all these other European countries, they're doing free college and it's working for them. What I don't think they also realize is that not everybody gets to go to college. You actually get put into, like, usually in like what we call middle school.
You're tracked.
Yeah, you get tracked. And it goes, okay, well, your family's from this and your grades are like this, so you're going to be better at being a carpenter or a construction worker.
Which you're starting to do now.
Yeah, they are with
Mike
standardized testing.
Mike and Frank, a freshman, I don't know about you guys when you went to...
Yeah, at North Stafford in Virginia.
They tracked you guys?
They had that where it's like, what, are you going into the engineering track or are you going into the medicine track or, whatever. They did.
And one of the tracks was a different high school diploma that was someone who wasn't going to college.
Yeah, there's like the advanced diploma and like the normal diploma. But yeah, to that point, to my point, nobody's thinking about. Actually, I think it'll be a little bit more exclusive because I think in those situations, some of those people will be like, no, I have a shot. I'm just bad at taking tests. Let me pay to come and go to college.
Right.
And I'm willing to pay for it. And I just want a chance. And go, well, sorry, when you were 13, you didn't test high enough, and now you can't go to college. And it's like, well, I was depressed and hormonal when I was 13. How do I know how was I going to test well?
That's a good point. So the only way you get to go to college then is if you pay the exorbitant tax, air quotes tax, of tuition.
Yeah.
Whereas everybody else who's going doesn't have to pay tuition. You're right. It probably will get more selective.
Yeah, I think so.
That's a really good
because when I was in England.
Well, I don't think, to your point.
Go ahead,
I don't think many people have thought about it, and not that you, but people that go, oh, free college, sounds good.
Yeah, well, they're bought into the gift, and I also think nowadays we're really, really quick to go, oh, free stuff, I get it, and then also I don't want to be sad. So I was promised, promised a free cell phone back to your example, and this other guy's telling me it's really bad, and maybe it is really bad for me. I don't even think they get to this, but maybe it is really bad for me. But man, I was really excited about that free cell phone, and I don't want to not get a free cell phone. So
everybody else is getting one.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just going to cross my fingers, hope it's not bad, hope they're wrong. Call them, tell them, they're idiots. They don't know what they're talking about. Cell phones, these cell phones are fine, and get my free cell phone because I was really excited about getting a free cell phone.
And then you have the confirmation bias, or what's the kind of like pre-selection bias, where once you make a choice, your brain will do whatever it takes, in some cases, whatever it takes, to defend that as a good
the investment
decision.
Bias.
The investment bias, right? I made this investment as in a decision to take the free cell phone and to vote for me, in the example. Therefore, the person I voted for is good, and the cell phone is good.
Maybe the radiation's a feature, not a problem. It's not like
it's really not that bad.
Yeah,
it's really not that bad.
I only lost my left eye.
That's just it. How much does anyone know about radiation?
Yeah, exactly.
All it takes is just one person to be like, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Well, we see this with 5G.
I was gonna say, yeah,
I'm not going to
5G.
get into the 5G science.
I don't know that much about it.
Well,
but,
Will,
I know a little bit about
you
it.
educated
Okay,
me. You educated me on this, and I don't know if
And I'm not a radiologist, but from just knowing some spectrum stuff, I'm like, I don't know about that. But go ahead.
But what I heard from once you told me what it was, I was like, holy crap, that sounds really dangerous. And yet, but my stuff runs faster.
Yeah, exactly.
But my stuff runs faster,
Yeah.
and we do these trade-offs
I don't
constantly.
feel the cancer.
I don't
right
feel
now.
the cancer. Yeah,
Yeah.
or it's one of those, the proximity preferences, the bias we have. Which, well, that's not close in time.
Yeah,
maybe I'll get
exactly.
sick later. Maybe I won't. But
Yeah,
I
maybe
need,
they'll have a cure.
But I need this game to run faster today.
Yeah, exactly. My download's not going fast enough. Yeah.
And so we do these types of and that's not a ridiculous example. I think I'm giving a
No,
real
that's
example
pretty good, yeah.
about that. And I guess either we can go to 5G, or if people want to know more about 5G, they can look it up.
I can give a real quick synopsis at least of my thoughts.
Yeah,
on
I just
it.
know microwave my brain. So
Yeah, well, yeah, to an extent. And again, I'm not a radiologist, but what I've seen and what the 5G companies, because there's two different types of 5G, but we're talking about the high frequency short range. I can't remember what it's called.
Not the 5G Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it's different. This is I'm talking about the ones where they on every light post in New York they're going to have these 5G routers, because basically the way it works is that the wavelength is so tight that you can transfer a lot of information on it really quickly because it's a tight wavelength, but it doesn't go that far. There's not enough energy behind it, to go long distances. So they have to have they have to have a lot of them so that there's fast speed everywhere. But the problem with that is the frequencies that they're getting close to they're really close to microwave frequencies. And microwave in short term isn't bad for you, but microwave, if you're in a city that is completely scattered in these shortwave 5G antennas, your entire city turns into a microwave of sorts.
So if I'm in Manhattan and I have this to my phone, if I have this phone to my head, that's bad enough.
Yeah,
because I'm getting the 5G in the face, literally.
Yeah,
but then you're right. If
you don't have 5G, you're still living next to an emitter, and you didn't get to opt into this.
I'm walking down the street and getting hit with the waves at every post.
Exactly,
every post.
Exactly,
and it's a burst, like a
it's a very intense burst. Because again, it has to be for the amount of data they're transferring, and this is all public knowledge as far as like their specifications on what they're using and how they're using it. I just don't think enough people are thinking about what are the long-term effects, because this might sound controversial, but I know there's a good amount of data on this out there right now, and it was a big worry when cell phones first came out, but even with 4G, that the tests that they conduct with 4G and cell phone like radiation safety it's something like from 10 meters or something like that, or millimeters. It's only safe if it's a certain distance from your body, but cell phones are zero distance from our body. They are on our body all the time. So the safe standard is not, the way they're testing it is not if it's in your pocket, how safe is it? The standard is if it's on the table across the room from you, is that a safe amount of radiation?
You don't use the phone.
It's not how you use the phone. Yeah. So there's been a lot of call outs for we need to re-regulate how we test these things. And then also we've caught companies being very sketchy with how their test results, or how the tests were conducted, where we found Samsung fudging their numbers a little bit, just marginally, but enough to push them right below the line to go, no, we're safe. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, well, your actual numbers are a little bit higher, but the way you conducted this, that's not quite right. And I'm saying this all, not super eloquently, but I think you're getting the point.
Well, I heard, and this could be apocryphal, but the story is that Bill Gates, who I think actually does have children, does not let his kids sleep with their cell phones in their bedrooms or by their heads. Yeah. So, if that's true, that says a lot about the safety of the technology.
Well, yeah, and to that point, even there's a lot of these new things coming out for people like sleep apnea and other sleep disorders. These like EEG, is that the word? The things you wear around your head, like the dots you put on your head. Yeah.
EKG.
Yeah. There's these new like headbands you can buy that track your sleep, and you can tell you when you're in REM, and they can like see when you're waking up and when you're not, and how much you're disturbed throughout the night and how deep you went. And also like there's alarm clock features built in so that you can it can wake you up as you're, exiting REM, so you're not, just getting slapped out of REM and you're feel exhausted. That's why you usually feel exhausted in the morning, even if you slept. You didn't go to the REMs. Well, or you woke up at the wrong time. That's why, like, sometimes I don't know if you ever experienced this, but
you were like in or on the peak of the REM.
Yeah, you can like wake up before your alarm sometimes, and you feel really great, and you're like, wow, I'm actually kind of up. You're like, oh, but I have 20 more minutes, so I might as well try to go back to sleep. And you wake up 20 minutes later, you're like, man, I feel terrible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's why. It's because of your REM cycle. But anyway, these headbands, they are marketing themselves as basically like internet free, or like a wavelength free or whatever. So like when you put them on to go to sleep, it shuts off all of the connections because they connect to your phone. That's where you read the data in the morning. But they shut off all their antennas while you're wearing them, and they advertise it as so that you're not getting any unnecessary radiation into your like the electromagnetic spectrum or whatever into your like it shuts off the electromagnetic spectrum.
Okay.
Stuff. I think it's like a colloquial term for it.
Do you want this?
No, I'm okay. I think it's like the electromagnetic field. I know that's a real term, but like when you're sleeping, like people are like, you need to get away from the electromagnetic field. Like turn your Wi-Fi router off at night, so that's not, like throughout your house, and it's like affecting while you're sleeping. Like only be in it as long as you have to be. And these headbands, to my point, are kind of rambling. Are marketing themselves as we're not doing that because while you're sleeping, it's really bad for you. So basically, to Dad's point that Bill Gates doesn't let his kids sleep next to his headphone, their phones next to their heads. That's being marketed with things that you're supposed to wear in your head. Like, yeah, don't worry, we're not doing that because we do think that's sketch.
Yeah.
That was a really long way to say that, but yeah.
Yeah, no, but that was a good point. That was a really good point because if you think of, so who benefits from this? Because if there are scientists and studies saying that 5G is dangerous, who would not want that information out there? It would be the cell phone companies.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so the cell phone companies are going to push their numbers, like you said, right?
Yeah, and we're definitely in conspiracy theory territory. Just let everybody know.
Real conspiracy theory.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's getting cloudy.
But
it's getting really.
I'm
cloudy.
more just saying that I'm not a doctor. I don't have a degree in any of this stuff. So I'm
neither do most of the other people.
It's true. I'm just letting that be said so people aren't in the comment section going like, "Oh, you hack! You think you know what you're talking about? But you're actually
you know what?
Maybe I am.
Actually, I'll tell you what, folks. The algorithms that Google runs to see whether our videos are worth recommending or not just looks on the number of comments.
Yeah.
So if you think Will's a hack, put it in the comments. Please. Yeah.
We
want I want 5 comments thoughts. Now about if Will's a hack or not. Do it now.
Please.
Yeah. So just to kind of
redirect
real quick,
please.
Yeah. Well, so we went on that
mid-roll.
So to come back to just find some fruit in that 5G tangent is, so why would people want 5G? Because they can get things quicker and better, and it makes their lives better.
Yeah.
But they're not looking at the 10-year effect.
No, they're looking for the instant gratification.
Yeah,
they want Netflix to stop buffering.
Yep.
Yeah.
They want to stop. Right. They don't want to work. For college, they don't want to pay for their health care. So it kind of and it's kind of weird. And again, I looked at this very open-mindedly, and I just looked at, I looked through debates and stuff, especially like presidential debates, and what are the big disagreements? It's usually immigration, health care, how to run the economy, things like abortion, and things like that. And what I go on both sides, and I look on the left side. And the left side almost all seem. I'm serious. And I keep it. This is the only thing on the left. I'm like, you know what? Maybe that was not a terrible thing. It would be gay marriage because sure, everyone should have the legal opportunity to get married. I actually do agree with that. I think that in a legal sense, from the government, taking my Christian 2 cents out, I do think everyone legally has should have the freedom to legally get married and legally identify how they want. Now, when I say identify, or I should restate that. they should have the freedom of speech to identify they want.
Like the libertarian viewpoint of if it's not hurting me directly.
If you want to dress up as a cat and go out, that's that's fine. But this is and where
I've done that before.
Yeah,
I dress up daily.
Yeah. And this to Jordan Pierce's point is, and Donald Trump Jr. said the same thing, is that if you want to go do that, man, that's fine. This is America. Welcome to a free country.
Yeah.
But when you start saying things like, well, there's 67 different, or we don't know how many genders are out there. Well,
and scientists are wrong.
Now we're talking about science, biology, and what you're now saying contradicts.
Well, you're rewriting the books at this point. This is no longer an argument of freedom of expression.
This isn't
an
a government
argument of science is wrong because my feelings tell me otherwise.
Exactly.
Not my thoughts.
Not
I think, but I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now this is the only side that legally as a government I'm okay with. I'm okay with.
Well, but so let me go one step further, because this is what I'm seeing. Okay. In your example, that there should be the right to express your opinion about a legal union or identification or something like that, okay? And then if I said, Jack, I disagree with you, in a normal situation, in a free society, you can say, okay, we kind of agree to disagree. We could even get heated about it, right? But it's still a matter of I, in this situation, would not feel like I couldn't say, Jack, I disagree with you.
Yeah, without the threat of getting killed by a bike lock.
But yes, but now it's no. In fact, Jack, when you just said just now, and you made that comment, I found my brain going to, I better not say anything that's going to get in trouble because this is going on the air. This is going out there. And that is an example of the culture that we live in, of the... is it cancel culture? Is it something else? But it's something where I'm living fear. There's a primordial fear that triggered in my mind.
What George Orwell talked about. We're not ready for the psychology of these attacks.
Well, I'm like,
because of exactly what you just experienced.
And so now it's a matter of, I believe this, and you dare not say something else, which goes kind of like to Will's comment a while back. Maybe it was last show where he said, I believe this, and I need somebody to affirm me.
Last show. Yeah,
affirm me in my belief. And if you don't affirm me, I need you dead, gone. I need you. You need.
You're not allowed to use Twitter
or
anymore.
Or bike lock.
You said, yeah.
Or you're not allowed to use Twitter or bike lock. Or I shouldn't have to
run you off the road.
Or I shouldn't have to read on Twitter that you disagree with me.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to be, because I feel unsafe and I need to go to the Japanese cuddle cafe.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm seeing now. That's what I'm seeing. That. Even if somebody doesn't want to take a position on whether, unions should be legal or not legal, or if they're moral or they're not moral, people like Ricky Gervais would say, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that people should be able to say whether they agree with it or not.
Yeah.
And not be afraid to agree or not agree with it.
Yeah, or like you're going to lose your job, you won't be able to support your family anymore, or you're going to end up dead on the side of the road and people thought you killed yourself, or got in a random car accident, but it was really Antifa or whoever that went and put a hit on you or did hit themselves.
And these are no longer extreme statements that you're making.
It's not. It happens all the time.
It's happening right now.
And I don't think there are going to be some people that say that doesn't happen, but
I know that people, they've lost their jobs.
Yeah.
They can't support their family now.
And I think especially like just this year, that's happened so much with people, especially with the BLM movement, that if you say anything, even like, well, I support Black Lives Matter, the movement, but I don't know if I support Black Lives Matter, like the corporation or the whatever you want to call them, the group. People are like, wow, you're a racist. Like that's not what I'm saying.
So that the race.
I love black people and I support, the idea that we need to, have less police brutality, but I don't support this being, not unionized, but put into like a corporation somebody else runs and they tell us what we believe.
And then it goes to, but Will, do you believe that we should be, in fact, killing people that don't agree with us? And if you say no, now you're on the other side.
Yeah,
now you have
exactly.
to. This happened to the Minnesota mayor, who was a total flake, and he tried to like kneel down, I think maybe even literally, to some of the leaders of BLM that were there, saying, I've been considering my own brokenness, my white brokenness and stuff. I'm like, wow. It was terrible. And then they said, but Mayor, are you going to stand behind us in defunding the police? And he said, I won't. And then they literally drove him out on a rail.
Wow.
So again, you're only as good as your last agreement.
Yeah, it's really true. It's really true.
Then boom.
What was your last tweet?
Yeah,
because I know you're a great person and all that stuff, but last thing you tweeted, man.
slipped out.
Yeah, you're done. That was your one.
And
Yeah.
people like, okay,
it's like they always have guns pointed at you, and sometimes they'll uncock the hammers, but as soon as you say it, they're like, oh, hammer's back on.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is, and that's the part that it's scary, but I mean, not living in fear. It's the completely unrecognizable part of anything that we would even pretend is a free society. You know,
it's counter America.
Yeah,
you know,
it's the exact opposite. And I just think it's funny that there's this whole thing we talked about earlier in the podcast about this whole mask thing and that this is communism. Where there's this other thing that's happening in the world that's like, or in America specifically, that's like, this is the definition of communism. It's not even like speculative. Like, well, that kind of looks like communism.
Right.
Like, oh, that's literally communism. Right. And people go, I don't know, man, but those masks, that's pretty communist. It's like, what? What are you looking at right now?
Yeah. So that happened to somebody I know. There's a priest that they really, really respect. Okay. And he was coming in person to talk to this other person. And they said, ask the famous priest what he thinks about this mask thing. And so the person that ended up asking the question to the famous priest asked him, and the famous priest's his response was, I got bigger things to worry about than that, man. I'm trying to stop people from dying. And his reaction was actually spiritual. I'm like, you know, we have a 1,500% increase in possessions or any type of deliverance stuff that we've seen in the last 5 years. I'm worried about that, you know. But what about the masks?
I'll wear a piece of paper. I'm worried about souls right now.
He's like, you know, whatever. You know, give me 3 masks if that'll.
Yeah.
You know,
I'll wear a clown suit.
I got really, really important things, so I think there's a secular variant of that, which is the really big problem we have right now, or that people are getting bike locked, or and you know, what is it called, shadow
banned. Yeah.
Shadow. What does doxing mean, by the way? If you dox me, what does that mean? Do you know?
Like DDoS? Like
I don't know. I don't know. They say
DDoS attack, or
they say like I don't know. I said something controversial and they dox me.
I don't know. I haven't heard that.
Yeah, I hear it all the time and I have no clue what it means. So
pull that.
Yeah, well, you know, or if you know, put it in the comments. Tell us what dox means, and maybe I'm even saying it wrong. I don't know. But
that's interesting.
What you're saying about it's kind of the bike locking and the killing and you need to die type of stuff. Yeah. Why at the end of everything I was looking at, I was like, you know, the Conservative Party, they're not just speaking things well into why their arguments are really best for the country and all people. You know, because just to touch on real quick, you know, when we talk about the instant gratification with all the free stuff, no one's thinking 10 years. No one's thinking 10 years down the line.
No one's thinking 2 days down the line.
That's true. Yeah.
In America, no
one is.
China is.
Yeah. Oh, they're thinking 50 years down.
Chinese government is.
Oh, yeah.
Not America.
They've been doing that forever.
Yeah. And so let alone we're not thinking 2 days around. Our government leaders aren't thinking 2 days down.
Yeah.
So when they say things like all this free stuff is going to benefit everything, it's going to end oppression, everyone's going, you know, that sounds wonderful. You know, I would that would be great if that could work. Does it work? It just doesn't. It doesn't work.
How much of that do you think is a result of the 2-year, 4-year, and 6-year election cycles that we have?
I was going to say something to that to extent, but go ahead.
My personal thought is, so this is my personal thought, is that so if you look at since the birth of America, if you look at our presidents, I would say almost all of them are great men and they're great leaders, and they know they know what they're doing as the president,
or at least they try. You know,
they try. Yeah. Well, they try the best, but you know, but they truly. I mean, if you look at JFK, Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, Ronald Reagan, you know,
Roosevelt.
Yeah, who's Democrat? Oh, JFK was Democratic. FDR. You know, whether you were Democrat or conservative, you know, whatever party you leaned on, these presidents were good leaders. You know, I think what happened. This is my opinion on, you know, does does it come down to these 4 and 8 year elections? I don't think so, because we relied so much on our leaders to step up as our president and in Congress to lead the country in a very smart and methodical way, that we just assumed that leaders would step up in all these sectors. President Obama, whether you liked him or not, whether his policies or not were good for the country, he was presidential. He did lead the country as a leader. When it came to the 2016 election and it came down between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, and I know everyone in the country had this reaction. Whether you voted for Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, either way you're like, can I vote for anyone else?
Anyone else? Schwarzenegger?
You're not wrong. Without revealing who it is, there's somebody that I know that said, everything that I believe in says I cannot cast a vote for Donald Trump. I can't. And I'm a conservative, but I can't vote for Hillary Clinton. There's no way. And so by voting
blatant corruption,
voting for Trump, because the other option was not to vote, right? Or to do something really stupid like write a name in. That's not going to actually matter.
You might My dog, Tim.
But they left the election box going, I feel like I have to, wash my hands, but I also feel like I'm not sure I did the right thing, but I didn't have any other choice. So you're not wrong. People think differently now, I think, about Trump.
Well, and why I think they think differently about them is because his policies are good for the country, and like they just are. The studies are showing it. How the economy has been impacted, our trade deals, everything he's doing as a president. If you didn't know who Donald Trump was and you compared him to all of our presidents, he would be in the top 5 as far as the policies.
I've read similar arguments on, not arguments, but similar data that's like, wow, he's actually boosted our economy more than any president in the last 50 years.
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy. But I think the problem is nobody's looking at that. They're all looking at what did he say on Twitter yet last night, because he has a terrible Twitter.
Exactly. Well,
But he elects that. I mean,
he does. No, I agree, and that's
and the other thing about Trump too is because he's not presidential, Jack, in the ways you were talking about, is 1 year went by, 2 years went by, 3 years went by, the world didn't blow up, the apocalypse didn't occur, and so we're like, okay, well, maybe he's not as bad as I thought he might be. Maybe it wasn't that big of a risk for me to vote for him. So I would say the folks who voted for him because they really believed in him, the Michael Voruses out there who were standing on the desk, on Church Militant and stuff when he was
my captain.
Yeah, he was. It was doing something similar. Those people are going to vote for him again. But the folks like the person I was talking about that went and voted for him, but they didn't know what else to do, they're not going to have the same dilemma to say, oh, I hope there's somebody else besides Trump to vote for this year. They're going to say, he's not that bad. I'm okay with voting for Trump. I don't have to wash my hands now.
World War III didn't happen. Wow.
No, it didn't. The world did not blow up. So, and maybe some good things happened too, but at least I didn't destroy the world.
Yeah, it didn't get way worse.
Right, by making this. So,
Yeah, the world didn't end. And I think you could go a little farther to say that he's actually, as a policymaker, a fantastic president. And the thing where Donald Trump throws a lot of people off is that I hate to say this, but his character on screen isn't fantastic.
I agree. Nor on the internet.
And I think it's very clear to both sides. You're like, and this is why I think everyone had a hard time.
Many good qualities, many good ones. There's so many that you can't even count them, but they're all good. They're fantastic.
They're all mine.
They're all good. I did more for my qualities than most other people ever did. But a lot of people don't know that. You won't give me the credit. But I did many good things I did.
Exactly. So, and I think that throws a lot of people off. And I think that goes to a hard wire, where you may even feel like, I don't like this guy. I don't like that. Okay, maybe his economy is the best. Maybe he's actually doing more for Black America than any other president has ever done. But I don't like how he's saying it.
I don't like his hair.
Yeah,
could be.
I mean,
I don't like looking at him.
But I don't think that stuff would matter if his character was in check. I think if he was acting with more humility, he's acting more as a leader and as a president, I don't think anyone would really be caring, because this is what President Obama did well, is that he carried himself as a president, but but his policies were terrible for the country.
Yeah, they really were.
We have the opposite.
You got that in Canada, right? What's his name?
Oh yeah,
Great
the
looking
pretty
guy.
boy. Yeah,
great looking guy, really handsome. Eye candy for people that are into that. Like I can watch him and listen to him for a long time.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell he's saying.
Yeah.
And I don't even
want
know if it's
him to
good.
marry me.
But you know what? He's enjoyable to watch. It's good entertainment, right?
Yeah.
Donald Trump, hard to look at,
which I think is
hard
what
to
I
listen to. You don't think so?
Well, I think that's just a little unfair because I don't think you can control those things. You know, I don't think every.
I think you can at least recognize and check them though, and go, well, am I being fair on my judgments? And I know we all have biases.
Control what things? What do you mean control?
What I mean is, like, I don't think you have to be eye candy to step up and be president of the United States. I don't think that you have to have a great physique and all these qualities to be the president of the United States. But I think there definitely should be character.
I don't think you do too, but I think you do to have to be elected.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's why Nixon would not get elected nowadays.
He was sweating. And to be chosen in the age of television, internet, etc., you can't be repulsive.
Yeah.
Let me put it that way.
Yeah. I hate to agree with that because I think it's wrong.
100%. Most of the things that are happening are wrong. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of great people out there that would be great presidents that don't look great.
But if you have no charisma,
but I don't think you need to look good to have charisma. I think actually Donald Trump has charisma. Okay. You know, I think that's one of the things he does very well, and that he has really good charisma. It's just that he doesn't know how to talk to the people as a president and as a leader, and he guns the left. Which, to be fair, it's understandable why, because the left guns him. You know, but the left guns him because because of two reasons. But a lot of people are, you know, it's one thing to say Donald Trump's policies are bad, that it's destructive for the country. He's doing a terrible job in office, and we need to get him out of there. We need to impeach him because our country is going to suffer more than it ever has. That's one thing. But to start going at him because you don't like him, which just a lot of people just don't like him because he has that attack on, and when the left. I'm not going to go. The left, they're very sensitive, driven as a party and as people, and I can relate to this because I can really sympathize where they're coming from because I truly believe a lot of people on the left side truly care. I mean, me personally, when I first heard about George Floyd and what happened, I posted a black square on Instagram. You know, because I thought it was a murder, you know, and I care about all, you know, ethnicities and stuff.
Right.
So it hit me, you know. So
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Democratic Party goes. They're very emotional. I truly believe morally they do want what's best for other people. But they're not doing it right. They're getting more scared because they don't know what's going on. They have no idea why the Conservative Party actually at a large level is helping the country because there's nothing attractive in what a free capitalist society is. It's like, well, how does that work? You know, and then well, let me sit you down and go through it. You know, there's no punchline.
Okay, let me examine that for 1 second.
Okay. Yeah.
So if George Floyd died today, knowing what you know, in other words, you know all about the aftermath of George Floyd's death and what happened to the cities and stuff. Okay?
Yeah.
Would you still post a black square?
I wouldn't. I actually deleted that black square.
Why?
Because of what the reality
he still died. He still died at the hands of a cop, you know? So what's the difference now, between now and then, about the death of George Floyd?
In George Floyd's case, I still think it's murder. I still think that the cop that did that, and it's clear on evidence that he suffocated this man, and this happens in the country. This happens to all races. Police brutality exists, but statistically, and this is a real statistic, and this is if you're an African American, the odds of you dying from police brutality as an ethnicity is less than being struck by lightning. people don't know that because you start to see it everywhere.
Well, I think it's the same thing as the shark attacks. More people are likely to die from a vending machine, but people go, "Oh my gosh, I saw Jaws, and we're all going to die from sharks."
Exactly.
Right. Right. And vending machines, statistically, you have twice the chance of dying by a vending machine than you do a shark attack.
But vending machines aren't scary. We use them a lot, and there's not a movie or a news article about how dangerous vending machines are, where stuff like George Floyd is blown up everywhere.
Right.
And then they, I think that's one thing about the left too is that they're very
it's the vending machine falling on you. By the way.
Exactly.
It doesn't reach out and grab you.
It doesn't eat you.
But I still want to know about. I want to go ahead, Will. But I still want to know the debt difference.
So George Floyd's death was a murder.
Okay.
Now that's.
Let's just say yes.
So, yes. Now, why I deleted my black square and why I'm not for Black Lives Matter is because what I'm not for is burning Madison Avenue. I'm not for ambushing our police officers. I'm not for the attacks that are going against Americans. I'm just going to sidetrack real quick, but in Austin, there was a guy in this protest, a peaceful protest, and this is what CNN's saying. The title was a peaceful protest. A peaceful protester was killed in Austin by a gunman. But this is what happened is that in this protest, this man was carrying a loaded AK-47. The protester was openly carrying an AK-47, walking down the street with the mob. They surround the car in the middle of the intersection. He gets on the hood, points the AK-47 through the windshield, and of course the driver, who happens to be a licensed carrier, is like,
my life's in danger right now.
I'm going to defend myself.
I have my Glock.
I'm surrounded by a mob, and I have someone pointing a loaded AK-47 into not just into my car, but into my face.
Right.
So this is a life or death situation.
Yep.
I'm against this because this is not a peaceful protest.
So what happens? Does he unload on the guy and kill him?
Yeah. So he fires 3 shots.
Yeah.
Which is actually amazing because if you looked at the video or pictures, it looks like there's at least 50 people surrounding his car. So that the fact that no one else got hit,
right. So he was actually controlled, and he
was very controlled. Right. He was making loud, and he called 911 after saying what happened because he didn't just drive off.
He was a responsible citizen.
But the headline was that the peaceful protester was killed by a gunman.
Yep, exactly. And which is the farthest thing from what happened. And what actually happened too after that, someone else in the crowd started unloading on the car. So he wasn't the only one carrying an open fire weapon.
Right.
And when you're I'm all for, and I'm all for Second Amendment rights.
Right. Right.
I believe this guy probably had the AK legally. When you're in Texas, you can legally open carry
in a non-threatening manner.
You can do it legally. You can do it.
However, that does restrict you from carrying a loaded magazine inside of your AK-47 walking down the street
in a mob
or pointing at somebody. So I think technically, if it was a loaded AK-47, he was not carrying it lawfully because he was doing it in a threatening manner.
Certainly, his pointing made it illegal.
Well, to open carry, I know you have to you can have a magazine in the gun if it's completely unloaded, but I still don't recommend that because you might get shot. But you can carry a rifle, an assault rifle even. It's just you cannot have anything in the weapon. You can have a magazine on you. It can be near it. It just cannot be in the mag well.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either, actually. But
that defines as a threatening manner.
I see.
So
if it's open, you can have one in your backpack, and there can be a magnum. That's fine. But if you're opening,
So he actually broke the law immediately when he had a loaded AK-47.
As far as I know, yeah.
So and real quick, whether he had a loaded AK-47 and whether that was legal or not, it's definitely illegal if you're pointing a weapon, whether you have a license or not. If you're abiding by the Second Amendment or not, if you point your weapon at another person. You are maybe you can, I don't know your legal things, but legally you are now have the intent to kill.
Yeah, so it's assault. Jumping on the hood of somebody's car with a loaded weapon is the definition of assault.
Exactly, and so he broke the law. This guy, the driver that's going, I mean, he's not going to have a problem, defending this case, but it's.
But that headline is the problem.
Yeah, the headline is the problem. Yeah.
And I asked the question about George Floyd because here's a situation.
Did I answer that, by the way?
You did.
Yeah, you did. Okay.
You did, because I was trying to get to this. I was trying to see where you stood because I wanted to see if this was true or not. Here's somebody, Jack Manhire, who felt deeply, because you shared with me at the time, I feel deeply about the death of George Floyd and how it's affecting my friends in the African American community, because it's affecting them. So I'm very sympathetic, maybe even empathetic with them on this. And yet, you, Jack Manhire, are not allowed to feel that way or express it publicly and at the same time say, and I don't think it's right for AK-47 boy to jump on the roof. No. You've got to accept it all.
Yeah.
And you had to remove the black square, because the black square now no longer means George Floyd shouldn't have been killed. It now means I'm for AK-47s pointing into cars.
Yeah.
Burning.
And that's absolutely bonkers.
I think
absolutely bonkers.
I think what leads to this, and just this behavior in general, not just this specific case, is that we're so flooded with information and new updates, and I think it's also leading to the presidency thing, is that everything's new all the time. So there's no, like, back in like the 50s or even like the 80s, when you didn't really have this constant flow of information, you had more time to digest things, to kind of accumulate different things in your head to go, okay, well, I know they did this, I know they did this, and, you know, President whoever, they have all these great things that I've witnessed and heard and thought about while I've been going to bed or whatever. But now you get so much new information so quickly, the human brain just can't keep up with it, can't log it all, can't digest it all. So a lot of it is, I heard it, but then it's just out the other ear, you know, and you kind of remember it, but you don't really know how you feel about it. There hasn't been any time to process it. So it's whatever the newest thing is like their entire person, is like that defines them completely, because you don't have all this other evidence in your brain to go, well, yeah, there's this, but that against all this other data I have just doesn't stand up. But if that's the only data, or one of the only pieces of data you have, because that's all you're really collecting, because you're so flooded, you're going to jump to these conclusions of he's an idiot, or, you know, he's racist, or whatever you want to say. But I really do think that it's in big cause to the fact that we just have so much data coming at us at all times that we really don't remember it as somebody would before the internet, because you just don't have that digestion period. And then you also have so much diverse information, where back then I think it was like, okay, it's the presidential year. The news is mainly on the president. Yeah, a new bakery opened or whatever, but a lot of this is on the campaigning, you know, and maybe there's a new movie or whatever, and I saw that. But I'm primarily focused, and the whole world in America is primarily focused on the election. Where now it's, okay, the election's one side, but here's a million other things. This is what Kim Kardashian is doing. This is what Jay-Z is doing. This is, you know, what's happening in Washington State. This is what's happening to your neighbor, you know, whatever. That everything, you just don't have enough, places in your brain, for lack of a better word, to fit all of this and to be able to digest it appropriately. It's just kind of all gets, you know, hodgepodged in your brain, and it's, oh, the world's crap, and I know about 1% of everything I just read, but I really don't understand most of it, or pretty much all of it. So you're jumping to these very rash conclusions that just aren't accurate.
Which is why when the headlines say peaceful protester killed by gunman, it already is saying who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, who should I be voting for, who should I say burn, or the other one, which was, you know, video giving false COVID information taken down, right? Okay, I don't need to know anymore. That told me everything I need to know.
I think,
and it's completely false.
I think that is an unintended consequence or side effect of the of this whole thing, is that like soundbite culture and headline culture that we've all fallen into, is that I don't have enough time or room amongst all this other stuff to process or to read the entire article or to watch the hour-long or even 2-minute video. I need that 30-second or 5-second soundbite. I need that, just the headline, and then I just go, oh, yeah, I know everything. And then I also think there's a pride element in it too, that is, well, yeah, I really think I did read the whole article, because, you know, that's all I really needed to know. And then you tell your friends, well, I read this article yesterday. And I mean, I'm guilty of this. I think we're all guilty of this.
Did you see the article where the peaceful protester was killed by the gunman?
And you just scroll through your new Google or Apple News feed.
You're implying that you read it.
Exactly. Or you say, I did read it. I read it, and this is what I know, because you don't want to sound stupid, and you want to sound, you know, eloquent and informed.
And or when you're in a conversation, you're like, man, these protests are kind of getting out of hand, and then your first thought, because this is all you know and all you've been exposed, just because you literally scroll through your news feed, is, well, hold on. There was a protester who was in a peaceful protest and he got killed in Texas by a gun.
Yeah, exactly. And you store that away is the whole story because that's all you actually know. And then you move on to the other stuff, and then somebody brings up in a conversation a day or a week later, and you go, oh, your brain goes, oh, I know about that. Here's what I remember. And it's innocent gunman got shot in a protest. And you go, but yeah, to your point, though, did you hear about the innocent protester that got shot? So I don't know if you're right about that, Jack. You know, that kind of thing.
Right. And it happened in Texas, and my own biases about Texas are that these guys are just cowboys carrying around guns anyway.
Exactly.
So we need better gun controls, or else that poor peaceful protester wouldn't be dead.
Yeah, and you never...
I'm surprised no one is saying a word about gun control right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we now have one of their own, so to speak, with an AK-47.
Yeah, that's a really good
you know what I'm
point.
saying?
Yeah.
Oh, and babies are getting shot.
Yeah,
babies are getting shot.
Terrible. It's so bad.
Yes.
I mean, and we're talking. I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, I mean, we're talking younger than 10 years old.
Yes.
I mean, they're
sometimes younger than 5.
Yeah. In strollers, started getting hit in stray bullets in Atlanta and Chicago, and it's really bad. But no one's talking about this. No. I hate to say left and right, but it's so divided now where it really is. I think we're at a point where conservatives haven't took this approach yet, and they're starting to. And Donald Trump from the start started doing this. Is that the left's the enemy, guys? You know, and or
at least the mainstream media, the left media, is the enemy.
Yeah.
Yes, but yes. And just to finish a quick thought was that when you attack conservatives, most conservatives, and at least the ones that I've either talked to or listened to, they're secure with what they believe, you know? Yes. So they're not slamming people in a sense of like, we need to take out the left is destroying the country, where you can make very good evidence and supporting arguments that they are, you know, and they're not taking that approach.
Right.
Because and they're getting they're getting attacked. You know, I mean, it's literally, you're a racist, you're a bigot, you know, all these things that are very aggressive in attacking their identity and their beliefs. And they're kind of just taking the punches, you know, and
that's how I feel. I got to tell you, from a personal standpoint, it's always been, well, I know what I believe. I'm not swayed by them. You know, that's just the crazy left. And really, it was just like whatever. And I don't open when I worked for the government, it was I had a friend who was a conservative, and we found out that each other were conservatives, kind of.
Yeah.
And
secret club.
It was. Yeah. It was secret club. like, you just don't say too much, in meetings and stuff. And at the university level and academia, even at Texas A&M, which is more on the conservative side of the campus, it's no different as far as the faculty and the staff go for the most part. And you just go, okay, but I'm not being oppressed, at least, right? I'm not being oppressed. It's not popular. I get it. I'm okay with not being popular. Now
it's true oppression.
I'm saying, no, it's oppression, that we're under attack.
Yeah.
Certainly Christianity is under attack. And I would say people that maybe the two go together. But for the most part, they do. They don't always go together, but for the most part, they do. And you're being attacked. And my first thought is not to fight. Now, I will stand in front of the statue of the Virgin Mary with bolt cutters, and I'll defend that, and I'll defend my family if I have to. But I'm not going to go into the streets with signs, because that doesn't make any sense to me either. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go get 70 acres of land somewhere and homestead and be ready when I have to hunker down and they can't find me.
Yeah.
And I can't believe that I'm the only one who's thinking like that.
No, you're not.
You're one.
I know.
Well, I mean, what does our extended family say? I mean,
and we haven't talked to them directly. That we feel this way. They're like, hey, I think we should go get land all together. And it's like, oh, we were just thinking the same thing. Funny.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people that are Christians and on conservatives are starting to feel that way. And
that's a refuge mentality. I need to create a refuge for myself and my family.
It is.
Because we're under attack.
Well, I think it's also funny because I'm sure all of those preppers are laughing their butts off right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they'd have been like, I told you. You told me I was crazy. I told you.
Yep. Buy my new pack now.
Yeah, exactly.
$129.
Yeah. But I do think, to your point about Christians and conservatives, and kind of my point of last podcast, is that I do think the reason that conservatives and Christians are so under fire is because we're pretty much the only ones going, hey, what you're doing something wrong. You shouldn't be doing that, and it's not good for society.
It's moral judgment.
It's not good for the
John
rest
the
of us.
Baptist. We're saying you're committing a sin. You're doing something morally wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
It's bad, right?
Exactly. Or it's bad for the economy. However you want to put it.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be morally. And I think they're going, how dare you tell me I'm doing something wrong?
We're not
I'm
validating.
going to kill you.
Yeah.
And that's not even hyperbolic. It's literally, I'm going to kill you.
Yep.
Do you want to know just like what I see? And it kind of touches on something I really did see. Is that
absolutely.
So we're on this very divided part where we have people now carrying, and it's slowly escalating. I even like told myself when this first started, when I first heard about like the riots and the looting, you know, and the violence that are coming out of these protests, I'm like, it's going. This is, everyone's going to be like, it's fine. The conservatives are like, we don't agree with this, but we're just going to let this one run out. I was like, until someone dies from a gunfire, because, and to be honest, I didn't expect someone in a peaceful protest to be carrying AK-47s.
Yeah, I wouldn't classify that as a peaceful protest.
Definitely not. And I didn't expect it. And this is how I thought it was going to go down. I thought someone on the radical right was going to actually shoot someone.
The Unabomber kind of guy,
one of the radical rights that were going to just start
the militia guys.
They were like, we had enough. We see what's going on.
Right.
We're going to start going. We're going to go to war with these guys
before it starts.
We'll strike first.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, that's how I'm like. That's how I thought it was going to happen. But what I didn't expect is that on the other side, that the protests are now getting so violent that there's AK-47s in these protests.
Well, the thing is, I don't even think that they're bringing the AK. So I think like the driver has his concealed carry weapon or open carry weapon because he's like, I need to protect myself, and I need to protect my family.
By the way, if you're in Texas and you're carrying AK-47 and you intend to use it, be prepared to
be taken down.
Be prepared to meet another barrel at the end of that night. This is in Portland.
Exactly.
Right,
but I really do think a lot of these people that aren't carrying them, or aren't, especially that aren't concealed carrying them. I think there are people that open carry that are good people, but I do think a lot of it is, dude, it's cool to carry an AK-47 in this protest, and I can, because this is the time. Just like
cops ain't gonna stop me.
Exactly. Just like I can burn a cop car. I didn't really ever want to burn a cop car, but now that it's like socially acceptable, quote unquote, I'm gonna burn a cop car because that sounds kind of fun, or that sounds kind of cool. Because when else am I gonna have a chance to do this? Just like. When else am I going to be able to walk down the streets of Austin carrying a loaded AK-47 and people not care?
Yeah.
I think
they get so wrapped into it.
It's almost like this power trip in a sense,
And this is why
they're reckless with it because they're not trained.
And they go, well, no one's going to mess with me, so I can just flaunt my AK, and then I'm going to start intimidating somebody, and I didn't actually expect somebody to shoot me in the face because I thought this was social. I thought we were all on the same page here.
Right. We're all having fun, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Whoa, why are you firing at me?
Yeah.
What? This is
they get so caught up in their movement, and
I saw this in Call of Duty. This looks cool.
Yeah.
Real quick. Something similar actually happened, and I want to say it was the Portland riots, but I could be wrong. It happened in one of the riots that just happened. Where people were breaking the cop cars and stealing kids. I mean, like probably 15-year-olds, maybe 15 to like 20-year-olds, stealing like their officers, like carbines, like their M4s, out of cars, and just walking around with them like. And they're the kind of people, like the stunt culture looking kind of people. They got like the Gucci bandana or whatever, and you can tell they're like, yeah, guys, I got my M4. And then this Marine that was on a former Marine that was on a security detail for some news company, and he was carrying. Ran up to them out of nowhere. There's some really cool like spine chilling videos of this, like just because like, oh, that's awesome. Of him running up to these people and just scream like this real Marine looking dude, like big dude, like this guy's gonna mess me up. Shaved head, big beard, jacked. Runs up to him to scream at him, drop the weapon, puts the Glock in their face, and like, oh my gosh, because they weren't, and they didn't have time to think about what should I do with this. It was this immediate fear of I didn't think anybody was going to do this to me. I was just like, now's the time to get a free M4 or to carry an M4. Cool, man, I'm gonna get an M4, and then there's immediate repercussion, and then you're scared because you didn't think anything was going to happen. But I do think this is happening around the country where there's this kind of idea that everything goes now, so I'm gonna do all the things that sound cool that were socially
like the purge.
Exactly. It's like the purge.
The purge.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't even want to kill somebody, but
I haven't even seen that movie.
Yeah,
but I know it's like The Verge.
Yeah, and it's the, it's. I think so. I think it's lighthearted. You could slowly start seeing. Okay, this is getting a little out of hand. This is getting a little dangerous, but I'm not running for the hills yet. This is still America. This isn't, this is happening, but it's not. This isn't directly happening, to me yet. But when I read and looked into this, this Austin situation,
right.
and then what the media was saying about it, I'm like, okay, this is getting bad. This is getting.
Is that your point? Like, not the hills might be the place now.
Yeah,
I've been saying this for 10 years.
Yeah. But so like, how does it? So
well, we thought you were a crazy prepper.
Yeah, exactly. And now you're all like, how much does a year cost?
No, for real, we are doing that. Like, Will, Hannah, tell us how much. How do we set up solar panels?
Yeah, and we are just blessed to have a very strong faith, and we're very we go with the flow very well, and
a strong family too.
Yeah, and we all believe that we're just going to be okay as
right.
As people, but if you stepped out of that, and at the end of the day, that's how I feel too. I'm like, you know what, the world's going to shit. It doesn't matter because I believe in heaven. So sorry, guys.
The worst that can happen is I die, and that's not that bad.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm secured in that because that's just truly what I believe. And but if I didn't have that belief, I'd be pretty concerned because
my whole livelihood's gone.
I was going,
my entire existence is at risk.
I was going, everything is now at risk, and what's going to happen?
And most of America has got to be living in fear. Because I can't believe
most of the world. I think a lot of us also look up to America as like, well, they're the leaders. Yep. What are they doing? They're going to crap. I think it's like Rome. Back, at the fall of Rome, where they were just like the ultimate superpower in the world, and everybody was looking to them. And then as they started falling, I was like, "Oh crap, what's going to happen now?"
Yeah. Well, I wrote this in
because they're the only ones protecting us from Russia invading Afghanistan, and all those things that happened back in like the 80s or 90s.
Yeah.
So if we're not,
Israel's got to be wetting their pants.
Yeah. If the world police is gone, which I have mixed opinions on, but if the world police is gone, who's going to protect us from the actual communists and all of them? So
yeah, and you think about this, you're like, okay, America, it's going down. We're suffering. And unfortunately, the left they're doing it. And they're openly saying we want to change America. We want to rewrite history. We want to take down
rid of that Constitution. We don't
get rid of the Constitution. Yeah. Let's rewrite. Let's look through all the amendments. Let's take it. Everyone that was involved at all in our history.
They're racist.
All products.
Burn the statues.
Well,
take them down.
That's what's happening with the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
They're threatening to.
Yeah.
They are threatening to
destroy it.
Yeah, destroy it. And they're thinking about the same thing with the Lincoln Memorial. I mean, I'm pretty sure the Lincoln Memorial is getting graffitied like as we speak. I mean, like I think there's graffiti on it as we speak.
There is already.
Yeah, I was pretty sure that happened like a week or two ago.
That's 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. I'm sure I'm late.
We're exponentially
but yeah, there's
stuff right now.
But I mean, if you told somebody after World War II or even 10 years ago that like people are going to want to take down the Washington Monument, or not the monuments of America, that represent
Democrats would have been like, you're absolutely crazy.
You're absolutely insane. Nobody would do that to America unless that Red Dawn happened.
Yeah,
like who's they that's doing this?
It's going to be from the outside.
It's you guys. Like the liberals are going to be doing this, or whoever you're talking to, and like it's going to be these radical movements that are saying we need to destroy America. That they're going to be, there's no way.
Yeah.
No way inside of America that's going to happen unless it's like the Taliban that planted some sleeper cells inside of us.
Yeah.
It's like, no, they're just normal people that are like want to blow stuff up now.
Yeah.
Part of the oath that you take, and I had to take this oath when I was in the federal government, but you take it as when you get your commission or if you are the President of the United States, it's you promise to protect the Constitution and defend it against all its enemies, foreign and domestic. And yeah, until now, I read that as, okay, the Timothy McVeigh, that one crazy guy that ran the truck in Oklahoma City, that Michigan group that is, planning on
the Chicago neo-Nazis,
the Unabomber, the fringe group, right? But But I always thought, no, it's the foreign enemy. That's the one that you're going to do.
Yeah.
And,
Russia, China.
But now the domestic
North
enemy is unfortunately getting to the point where you're worried about, at least, is it my neighbor?
Yeah. Well,
Is it my neighbor? And they're wondering, is it me?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I don't even think it's that big of a wonder anymore, because I think our neighbors are more on the internet than they are our actual neighbors nowadays. So it really is. I think it's kind of the opposite in a sense, or at least more extreme than that. Is that I can't say anything because it's everybody but me.
That's true.
And there's just like the IRS thing, like who's my secret group of people that I can confide in? Because if I say it's to the wrong person, I might lose my job. I might end up dead. I don't know what's going to happen to me. And so I really think it's like Big Brother in like 1984, where it's like I have to go run off into the woods and have these conversations away from my TV because that looking screen, the thought police are going to be at my door the next second if I say anything.
That's why I
got to act normal.
That's why I'm so glad.
Do your dance.
We can come here in this room and just the three of us talk without worrying about anybody else overhearing us.
Oh yeah. Exactly. The perfect. Yeah, it's never going to leave this room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whew. Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
The government will not be listening to this.
Yeah.
The NSA does not have access to these frequencies.
But if they do, we love you.
Yeah,
We love
exactly.
you.
Yeah, we I bend my knee to you. Yeah,
And Google, YouTube. You guys are
you're the
great.
best. You're the best. I agree with everything you're doing.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Keep it up. Keep it up. Fantastic.
Can I pay you?
Yeah, that's right. So we're almost at 2 hours, but we can go. Want to keep going on?
Yeah, I'm really enjoying this. I do have to go to the bathroom again.
Yeah, go ahead. I got one more thing, but you can veto it. The Iran's Navy destroyed the mock U.S. aircraft carriers.
I do want to talk about that.
Yeah,
because
okay,
I have some military stuff to talk about.
Okay, well, then,
I don't know about this. So,
okay, yeah. Well, so I'll set it up, and since Will already knows about it, it's okay.
I don't know about this specific situation. I know about more military stuff.
Oh, okay. So, essentially, Iran is running its, I don't know if it's annual or biannual or monthly or whatever, but their regular, I think it's annual, their regular kind of war games, they're training war games. And they're doing it in the Strait of Hormuz. And the Strait of Hormuz is that part by Saudi Arabia where about 30% of the oil is transported.
Okay.
So the Strait of Hormuz is a strategic, economic, I would say even national security bottleneck, for everybody. You know? And Iran has like the worst possible position geographically. Like they that's a terrible position where they're landlocked in there and everything. Okay. So they're running. What they do is they set up for their war games, mock full size, but mock U.S. aircraft carriers and their bombers and their fighters and their ships were going and destroying them. Okay.
Iran's
bombers, fighters, ships were destroying.
So Iran's military came after our mock military, pretty much.
No, Iran built they had to build an enemy for the war games.
Okay.
They had to build.
Did the U.S. had to build?
No. This is all within Iran. I'm sorry.
Okay. This is Iran's.
Iran says we're going to run.
This is Iran's war games.
Iran's war games.
We don't have. No. We're not playing war games.
Iran's war games, okay. And they choose as the enemy the United States in the sense that they built for their war games aircraft carriers, ships, and other assets that, of course, they would destroy, right?
Mm-hmm. Like their mock enemy.
As their mock enemy.
Yeah.
But it was the U.S. Their U.S. aircraft carriers, their U.S. ships, their U.S. things.
Interesting.
And so and I don't think this is crazy to say, well, why did they build them as the U.S. and why do they want everybody to see them as destroying U.S. ships, destroying U.S. aircraft carriers, which are our major assets? Aircraft carriers are the big things. So that was a concerning, whether it was hypocritical or not, I don't know, but it was concerning that not that they're doing war games, but that they chose the U.S. as their mock adversary and then raised their hands up going, yes, we win against the United States.
I'm sure we're now feeling how Russia feels every time we put a new Call of Duty game. And we're like, oh, bad guys Russia again. Yeah.
Yeah, new Harrison Ford movie.
Exactly.
I wanted to throw that ball out and see if you guys, whether you'd heard about it or what do you think about that?
I have not heard about it.
Are you concerned about that at all?
Well, I'm mildly concerned. I don't say I'm mildly concerned. I'm concerned, but I'm not at all surprised. I think this is if you told me this, like as you're doing right now, I'm not like, I don't know, did that really happen? I'm like, oh yeah, of course, that happen. Like that just, it seems inevitable at this point in time. That,
so
like,
remember, this
is going to
happened
happen.
after we killed Soleimani in January, right? Their top guy, and then Iran sent those couple, missiles that didn't hit anybody.
Yeah, as a retaliation. But we're not killing. Yeah.
Right. So this all happens after that, right? And now they're doing this. So I have an interpretation of this.
Yeah, I want to hear that.
But I want to know what you guys think.
Well, honestly, I'm not surprised at all. And if you told me this back in 2002, I don't think I'd be that surprised, other than the fact that I was like little. But because I know that ever since we first got into the Middle East, they've pretty much all, other than some people, have been America's the enemy, and they see us as like the British saw the Americans during the Revolutionary War. It's like they're coming into our country, they're destroying our stuff, they're trying to bring Western
This is Iran.
I know, okay. I know, but I think it just applies to the entire area that because I think they all got affected by it.
And the Saudis were there watching these two things too.
Because how many Americans? I'm being kind of facetious here, but how many Americans really understand the difference between Iraq and Iran? Where
a Q and an N.
Yeah, but
Are they? What's their location to each other?
I mean, they're like,
are they right
next?
Their
borders?
Are they right next to? Because that's what I thought. But I was like, is
Iraq,
that true?
Iran.
Yeah, but that's kind of my point, though. If Russia brings war to America, it's affecting Canada. It's not just this isolated thing. So I'm really not that surprised because, especially they've seen us as these infiltrators for a long time. And if you even look at pictures of before even Afghanistan before Russia entered Afghanistan, those areas back in the 80s, 70s. Like
so and then late 70s under Carter, they took the American hostages under Ayatollah Khomeini.
Yeah,
Khomeini, and they were holding them until Ronald Reagan got elected, and they let him go.
Yeah, that's funny.
But yes,
ever
death
since,
to America, the great Satan.
Ever since war has been breaking out there, if you look at before and after pictures of their just their land, their houses, their cities, stuff like that, towns, it's a lot like looking at England like pre and during World War II, where it's just like, oh yeah, this is actually kind of nice. Like I wouldn't want to necessarily vacation here, but I like this is definitely like habitable and like a normal looking place to live. And now it's like that was a house, where it's just a bunch of just desolated places, or decimated, I should say. And so I'm really not that surprised, because I think a lot of the Middle East has a a fight to pick with America.
Do you know that decimated literally means that 1/10 of your stuff's gone deaths?
Oh wow, yeah, interesting.
Where it comes from.
Yeah.
Now we use it as it's obliterated.
Yeah.
90%.
Interesting. Yeah, I got desolate and decimated.
It's probably more desolate than it is decimated.
Yeah. But go ahead, Jack.
I was just going to touch on what you said. Is as far as Iran, it's an. Am I correct to say it's an Eastern country?
Yeah, it's Middle Eastern.
Middle Eastern, maybe Eastern philosophies, or is there such thing as Middle Eastern?
It's militant
Yeah.
Islamic.
Okay.
They're very strong. Death to Israel.
Okay.
Israel is most worried about Iran as far as the country that's
the religious war between.
We want you off the face of the earth.
And if you want to talk about that for a second, just for like a quick second, I think a lot of people, because I do think it's really ironic and interesting how the left kind of embraces Islam and are like, these guys are the best, when they reject and villainize Christianity, which is really interesting because one's a lot more malicious than the other. And yeah, you could argue the Crusades, but I don't think that's a good argument. Where there's nowhere in the Christian Bible that talks about you need to go kill people, and anybody that
convert or die.
Convert or die, exactly. That if you apostatize from Islam, that person needs to die, or you're not going to heaven. Where even American Islams aren't usually that extreme. They're a lot looser in their beliefs of that kind of stuff. But in the Middle East, they are very, 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 very firm believers of this, and this is why.
Isn't that really interesting, though, that the left are the ones that are saying, believe what I believe,
or die. It is. That is interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't think about that until until you mentioned that. That's
Yeah.
really a good point. Oh, interesting point. But I mean, there have been countless videos and stories, and I mean, I think this is one of the big reasons we got involved over there, is just because Islamic groups go into towns or find people that aren't and cut their heads off, publicly execute them with machetes on a log.
Yes.
It's it's a big deal. Even like when you see it in Lone Survivor, it's like, oh, does that really happen? Like that happens
throw 'em off roofs.
every day there, all the time. All the time. So
it's evil. I mean, like what and especially from the accounts that I hear from people who are over there, is they're witnessing evil. This isn't us going into a country and
well, that's all Chris Kyle's take on it too. Was like, why? Because I remember like one of his fellow Navy SEALs like, I don't believe I guys don't know what we're fighting for, and he's like, we're fighting evil. Like there's legitimate evil here that we need to stop. I don't want to go too much of off a tangent because I really like the topic, but as far so in that movie, there might have been another SEAL who was like, man, I'm not sure. I'm not there
sure.
Was one.
Was
I
it
watched
okay?
It recently? Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure from what I understand about the SEAL teams, and I know very little, but I'm a huge fan. So I'm I'm just a fanboy over it.
Yeah.
What I understand is the most mentality they understand what they're doing. They understand that there's real evil going on, and they're there to fight it.
Yeah.
The thing that so that they have very good understanding. If you ask a lot of SEALs from the perspective of let's just shout out Jocko Willing's podcast. I'm a huge fan.
Okay.
What he and people who don't know who Jocko Willink is a former platoon commander, very well ranked officer in the Navy as a SEAL, and he's like, so we're over there and we know what we're doing. We are fighting evil, and whether this is our job or not, that can be argued. Whether America should be fighting this, that can be argued. But when we're there, we straight up are just fighting evil. So a lot of, from my understanding, a lot of the special operations community has a very well understanding on what's going on, because they're pretty involved in the high level stuff. The stuff that's like, very
going after the big targets.
And they're very in tuned with the enemy. They're very well informed on how this is going to make an impact on the war they're fighting, on a city or overall the country, but very small cities and towns that they're liberating. They understand what they're doing. If you ask the big Marine Corps or all the enlisted Army soldiers, they don't know what's going on. They get, and from I don't know about the Army, but from what I understand about the Marine Corps is that when in a chain of command fashion, it's you don't ask questions. You guard this field.
Yes, sir.
Get some.
Sir.
That's it's.
Hoorah,
exactly. There's no. This is why we're doing the field. This is why we're protecting. This is how it impacts. This is the effect it's going to have on the insurgents that we're fighting against. They have no clue.
Yeah.
So
and when the enemy's an ideology, it unlike World War II, where it was like, okay, well, these are the Nazis and these are the Japanese, and you can tell that they're them because of this uniform, and we know what they're doing. Here's photos, here's evidence. Everybody knows it. In this situation, there's bad guys out there. Go find them. What do they look like? Well, we don't really know, but we know they're out there.
And it could be that 9-year-old kid.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And that so that they are definitely fighting evil, and that's not to discount the unintended target hits and everything like that, because that's very unfortunate and bad. And I'm not trying to glorify war and say like, we're doing the absolute right thing all the time. Right, America definitely commits war crimes. But
absolutely.
No, I totally agree with you. And I really do think that it's probably a big cause of a lot of the PTSD and trauma of troops that come back, like the Marine Corps. And I just don't think you see that in a lot of the SEALs, because they're on the ground fighting the big dudes, and they are well, briefed on exactly what's going to happen. And the other guys are just like the hammer. It's like the scalpel versus the hammer argument, where, one dude is just blunt force to just shock and awe it, and the other guy's like, well, we're going in for this exact guy. We know what he's been doing. We know who he's been trafficking, whatever's been going on, and we're going to take this guy out for this exact reason. Other than, why am I in this house? Why am I stopping these people from being able to leave? What's going on? Why are we bombing this village?
And when I can imagine when you're kicking down doors, and I was reading Chris Kyle's book, and the objective of the Marine Corps during the invasion of Fallujah was, their priority mission was to clear houses. They would clear all of Fallujah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they were talking about Marine Corps platoons that were clearing up to 50 houses a day. Now, you hear that and you're like, okay, that you're clearing 50 houses, that's their job and stuff. But I imagine if I'm on that wall breaching a door into a house where I have no idea who's inside, I have no idea who's carrying, I don't know if I'm going to see women, I don't know if I'm going to see men with AKs, I don't know if I'm going to see...
Is there an IED at the door?
Exactly. Is it booby trapped, which a lot of them were.
Yep.
So 50 times a day, you're like, is this the end of my life? And you're a young part of the Marine Corps, and you're like... And this is what Chris Kyle even said, is that it's exhausting work because a lot of the military treats their, especially the combat-oriented jobs in the military, they will all say, this is our job. When they go on the missions, they're like, we're just going to work, And, so when they clear houses, it's not exactly what you might see in a movie where it's this... these huge battlegrounds, especially in Iraq, kind of like you were talking about. Like in World War II, we weren't clearing houses like that. It was like, we got to take this city. There's, we have an estimate on how many German Nazis there are. And
but everybody's evacuated or captured. All the civilians, we're not going into...
it's a war. It's a straight up war zone. And it's literally, we take the city or we don't take the city. It's very black or white
This is kind of police meets Marine Corps, though, as far as clearing the house, making sure the bad guy's not in the house.
I heard someone, actually an Army soldier, who was like, he was talking about the police, the role of the police officer in America and stuff. He's like, I don't know anything about the police. I was never part of the police, but I policed the country for 20 years.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's why it's a police action and not actually a war, is because we're not warring anybody technically. We're policing these places,
Now,
it's like we're putting martial law in a different country in a sense.
We're tangent it way off, but my point of the clearing houses, you mentioned PTSD. Why a lot of special operations don't suffer from PTSD. They do actually suffer from PTSD.
No, I'm sure they do. I'm sure the numbers are probably lower.
Or they might
be wrong. I'm not a
statistically, they
psychologist.
might be equal, but here's the difference between a soldier, an enlisted soldier, and an enlisted SEAL or MARSOC operator, is that they are trained for 2 to 3 years to handle this stuff.
Yes.
And so it's not classroom stuff where it's like, this is what we're going to do. This is what you're going to be exposed to. It's like, no, we're going to put you through hell for 3 years.
Right.
So they physically are adapted for war,
On their first op.
On their first op,
they've been
on their first op,
like the Spartans.
Yeah, and from what I hear is they feel invincible, and
they're ready.
And they're ready because they are, because they literally went for 2 to 3 years of going through just absolute
from boot camp to op.
You can even, I wouldn't even say boot camp, because what I understand about Navy boot camp is that it's really not that intense.
But the time frame from boot camp to op, it's like 3 years.
Probably. 3 years, and 3 years, and I think Navy is like 2. Not the bash Navy boot camp. You guys are warriors, but it's not
Navy boot camp is
it's not the Marine Corps.
No. It's I think it's
they're also not doing the job.
Number one, Marine Corps boot camps. Marine Corps,
I think it's Coast Guard. Actually.
Coast Guard, Navy, Air Force, and Army should be in there too. The Army.
Yeah. I'm actually pretty sure it's Coast Guard, Marine Corps.
I heard
that. But
I heard that the Coast. So the thing I heard, and how do you know what's the hardest?
Yeah, that's also a good point.
But
and for the people who want to shit over me, I'm not going to tell the story. Maybe another day. But I did enlist in the Marine Corps. And I was there, so just
you got some creds.
Just hold your fire. I'm not a Marine. I'm not a Marine, but. Whatever. But
I hear Coast Guard's number 2 to the Marine Corps. That's what I hear.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the mock war. After you're done.
Go ahead. We'll move on.
So here's my theory. Okay, and this is a conspiracy theory because I'm connecting dots that aren't necessarily there either. But if I'm Iran, and I'm going to be so audacious as to set up, the enemy that I'm destroying as the United States, arguably the strongest navy in the world, right? Yeah. I'm not doing that unless I got somebody got. Well,
unless
unless Russia or China or both got my back.
Yeah.
And I know that if this is going to incite war, it's not just going to bring down the wrath of the United States down upon us. Because under Trump, that could happen. Under Trump, whether it would happen or not, I don't know. But Iran's got to be thinking it could happen because he might just fire on us. I don't know.
Yeah.
So they've got to be doing that, saying we've got somebody backing us on this, and that's how I see this. And I'm guessing Russia.
Yeah, well, I would guess so too, and I think probably by association, China. But I do think so. At least of what I've seen, and this is me connecting the dots a little too, is that Russia. I think Russia and China are the big dogs that are, in cahoots. They're friends, they're buddies, they're going at this together. And then China is working on places like North Korea as their pawns. And then Russia is working on the Middle East as their pawns. They're working on the Islamic State, while China's more working on, like the communists in a sense. North Korea, and then also trying to bring other people in, like Taiwan. Like they really want Taiwan back. They really do, and they're fighting for it. And they were even spying. So we're doing. This is confirmed. Like this is in the news. We're doing joint op training with the Taiwanese government. Their special forces. Yeah, like the American special forces were doing
training their folks, right?
Exactly. And a Chinese spy ship, military spy ship, was caught off the border of Taiwan doing like spy operations.
Really?
On our training. So, and they've openly said no. Taiwan belongs to China. We want Taiwan back, and I really think that's a whole part of this whole. We're seizing. Yeah, seizing. Yeah, we're under siege, but sieging. The South China Sea, because they have been doing that for a couple of years, and they're still actively doing this. And this is why we have aircraft carriers deployed right outside of it, right now, with Marines on them to try to control this stuff going on. But I really think where it'll probably first hit. If I'm just guessing, I'm not that informed on this, but I'm mildly informed. That'll probably start in the South China Sea. China will probably make a move on Taiwan.
Okay.
And
we'll back that.
Yeah, and then we'll back that, and then Russia moves in with Iran, and because I really think Russia's interested in America. I think they're more interested in Europe. Yeah,
so they coming through. I think
they're a lot more interested in taking
Turkey,
Eastern
maybe,
Europe,
or through
probably
the Balkans,
probably around that area, and then probably.
So we're off. We're busy with China.
Yeah, and we're gonna be fighting a two-front war again. Yeah. And I really think it's going to be Australia's going to get involved. One, because we're friends with Australia, but two, because Australia is greatly affected by the South China Sea.
Does North Korea try to come over?
North Korea probably goes for South Korea, because they're already troops on the border.
And our largest investment, I think, is Seoul, right?
Yeah,
Seoul?
Yeah, exactly. And it's really all
Seoul?
Seoul
Korea,
is the capital of South Korea. Yeah. Gotcha. And it's all South Korea. South Korea is like Asian America, and I don't think Koreans will be offended when they hear that, because they really are.
Like the American culture is strong there.
Like it's very strong there. Okay. They teach English. They're very and as well as Korean, obviously, but it's very Americanized. Okay, it's Westernized.
But we're busy in Asia.
Yeah, and China's also interested in India. They have troops on the border in India right now.
You're right.
And I do think the reason they want Taiwan and India, other than I don't know, like strategic military positions, is more for economic resources, because Taiwan and India have been taking a ton of their manufacturing. Right. Because India and Taiwan are the new China, where
China's wage went up, and so it's not the cheapest to manufacture in China anymore with the low wage.
Yeah,
interesting. India and Taiwan
India's
took over that market.
Exploding right now. Their economy, especially in technology, is exploding. More and more people are being able to afford cell phones and laptops and stuff like this, and they're going for a little higher tier stuff, and they're looking to manufacture more.
That's great for India.
Yeah, it's great for India. They're entering the newer age right now. And China sees this as, well, what about our economy? Because China's all about more, higher numbers in our production, more contracts, more factories, more workers. And if a lot of the manufacturing deals move to India and move to Taiwan, then it's, well, what are we going to do? And it's either we lower our costs, but then that negatively affects our economy, or we go after India. Or they take the hit, and that lowers their economy. Or they go after India and Taiwan and try to seize their stuff, and then that positively affects their economy. But
so if China loses its cheap labor,
which is their primary,
that's what I was going to say. Is that their number one export? Is
manufacturing is their number one export.
Okay,
yeah, so I think by a lot.
I was going to say they don't have a close number two to fall back on.
No, it's mostly manufacturing, technology, and medicine. Actually, medicine is a huge, like all of our vaccines, like all of their vaccines, our opiates, all that stuff. It's heavily manufactured by China. It's actually kind of scary. So if we did go to war with them, a lot of our medicine manufacturing is going to go under.
Or go way up in price because
if China's at war with us, though, I mean, other than the argument that
oh no, we're not going to get it from China. It's just that
possibly.
the demand's going to be there and the supply is going to be low because the U.S. is going to have to find another manufacturer.
Yeah, exactly. And if we go to India,
we can have a huge spike in your monthly prescription that you need to take.
Unless they jack up the prices, don't put a tariff on it, or put a tariff on it, but don't put a what's it called when you ban export and imports? We did with Cuba. No, it's what is it called?
Embargo.
Yeah. And if they don't embargo it, because they could use it as a way to fund their own war. I mean, Germany was doing that by selling us their actions.
It's happened before.
Yeah, because for the Springfield, we bought the stripper clip patent, or at least bought the rights to their patent from Germany while we were fighting Germany in World War I, which is really funny. So we were killing them with their own technology.
It is. It's funny how the dollar is still number one to like war and lies.
It is. It is really funny.
Well, you're selling stuff there that they're shooting our folks with. I know we're making a lot of money.
Yeah, and we gotta. How else we gotta?
That's how we're gonna. We gotta build tanks with them.
Yeah,
you know?
That's how we.
Infantry's expendable. We need tanks.
Yeah, exactly. So I do think it's gonna be. I think China's gonna mostly focus on Asia and probably try to take Japan. Japan is pretty scared, at least from their actions.
Really?
They just built their first helicopter carrier not too long ago because they're not allowed to have aircraft carriers.
Right, after
World War II. And they're not allowed to have a big military, but they've been slowly ramping up their military numbers, and they've been building quote-unquote helicopter carriers because they can't have aircraft carriers. But, they might be lined with or equipped with aircraft carrier technologies.
So we'd be allied with Japan.
Yeah, with Taiwan, South Korea, Australia, most likely Canada,
Israel,
South Korea, Israel,
and
England will probably help us out. Well, I don't know about France, but Italy.
What about
Italy
this,
might be like, well,
what about this crazy prediction that Germany will actually end up, even if they don't start out this way, allying with the Russian-Iranian force that comes in?
Based on history, I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay. I mean, could you see it, or is that just a crazy prediction?
I could see it, but I could also not see it, because I could see it as we're done with that, and I could also see it as, I don't know, maybe third time's the charm. I'm kind of joking. But
so mine is, and this is based on some stuff, but Germany starts out on the defense for an Eastern European attack from Iran, Syria, etc. But then they're either conquered or flip. And then France is, oh my gosh, right? Because they're right there, the Westphalia, border and stuff like that. And then something's going to happen. America's going to have to step in, or France is going to have to step up, or Italy's going to step up, or somebody. Not Belgium.
Yeah, so, I don't know what they do.
Right. Oh, they can give them chocolates and waffles.
Yeah. But I think it's going to be very similar to World War II if it does happen. It's going to be an Asian front and a European front, but I don't think it's going to go to the Pacific. I think it's going to probably stop it around Japan and like the Korea, Japan, India area, and it's going to be a big land war.
So that's in some ways crazy to think that in the 21st century, we'd be planning for multi-front land war.
Yeah.
When we think it would be a cyber war or a nuclear war.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to go nuclear. I really don't, because I don't think any one of our countries is stupid enough. As much as like some of our leaders are,
China wants Taiwan. Happy. They don't want to blow them up, right?
No, and I think all of them are smart enough to realize the repercussions of a nuclear holocaust or a nuclear winter, because even if you're putting nukes into America, because a nuke, realistically, it can't blow up more than, like, let's say you put a nuke in Manhattan, you'll probably get most of Manhattan, but you're not putting America down unless you launch a ton of nukes. And at that point, you're putting the whole world into a nuclear winter. I mean, it's the same thing when the volcano erupted in 2013 or whatever.
Yeah, in Iceland.
And it shut down all of Europe, and they're not that close. I mean,
yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right,
because the wind currents will take it all over the place. So if you put us into a nuclear winter, give it a couple days, you'll be in a nuclear winter too. And I just don't think any of us, besides maybe North Korea, are stupid enough to be launching nukes like that.
So it's actually good.
I think it's going to be a threat. I think it's going to be like, we'll nuke you, but it's not going to happen.
Intelligent enemies are good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sense, right? Intelligent enemies are good to have.
Yeah.
Because land wars, while there's going to be a lot of carnage, it's recoverable in the sense that, well, now it's not hyper radiated and it's not.
And back to the last, one more thing. Back to the last podcast too. I think it's going to be a lot of satellite warfare. We're shutting down infrastructure, EMPs, hacking.
I forgot about that already.
Yeah. So I do think there's going to be this. They're going to start building their own systems like they already are. They're going to start taking out our systems, try to make us blind. Because it's no longer radio jammers that are going to, take out our communications. We need some, like back in World War II, you could go on a different frequency or talk in a different code language or whatever. But with the way things are nowadays, you're going to have to take out our infrastructure. So you can't just cut the lines in the trenches like World War I.
I can't remember which book it is. And I don't know if you guys, I think it was a Neil Stephenson book, like Cryptonomicon or something like that. It's one of those books where the aliens, essentially have control of our electronics.
Interesting.
And so we've got to go old school. We've got to learn Morse code, and we're like passing notes in paper, and because that's the only thing they can't monitor.
Use Jurassic Park technology to bring back the carrier pigeon.
Well, something like that, right? It's all that type of stuff that we have to start becoming masters of low tech and no tech in order to survive against someone that's controlling our tech world.
I think it's feasible.
And you had said once, I think it was either you or I think it was both of you, Jack and Will, that were. I was saying that some predict that the European war is going to be folks on horses and stuff like that. Yeah. And you're like, well, it's not going to be like Terminator. It's going to be Lord of the Rings or something like that. Yeah. And the only way I can see that actually happening is if EMPs and things like that blow out.
Yeah, we can't use them.
And so we've got to get back on horses and we have to have bows and arrows.
Talk about mutually destroyed.
And we've got to have things that are not electronic based.
Talk about mutually destroyed destruction. I do think that that's possible. Not through nukes and not through actual destruction, but technological destruction. Yeah. Like what you're talking about, that they EMP us and we EMP them, because that's not going to
Then we're all getting on horses.
Then we're all.
The buildings are still up and everything.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. Not a lot of people no one's like dying from nuclear radiation or the the bomb itself. And it's just a massive infrastructure takedown. And then we're back on horses, back using
Well, remember the third secret of Fatima is that the Pope goes up to the hill
and gets shot by
arrows and guns, right? Yeah. Now, those are two mechanical weapons. One's more advanced than the other, but they're both mechanical weapons and electronic weapons.
You can build them in your backyard
right?
if you really want to.
And so if that is a literal prophecy, I'm not saying it's the only way it could happen is if there's an EMP, but it makes sense why you would be using those types of weapons if in fact you are EMP'd.
Yeah, which I don't think an EMP would directly affect the guns themselves, but it would affect manufacturing. Right. So if you're losing weapons out in battle, if you don't have enough,
that's a good point.
The other thing is we're in the American military is in the process of switching our weapons. So we're trying to move away from the AR-15 platform, from the M4 platform, and it's supposed to be, I think, by the next summer 2021 is when we choose our next bid. There's 3 companies, I can't remember which 3 they are, that are
Hammer Technologies.
That's funny. Working on they're bidding their weapons for a new light machine gun and then a new assault rifles, to replace the M4 platform. So let's say we are in the stages of phasing out the M4s, right, and we're phasing in the new ones, and then we get EMP'd, manufacturing gets cut off. We no longer have enough ammunition for our new weapons and not enough ammunition for our old weapons. So it's all right. We don't have enough guns.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
And maybe nobody does.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe nobody does, and you've got to just scrimp and scrape, or Israel, which has our surplus, goes, we got them all over here, guys.
Come get them,
Come get them. We got your A4 fighters and everything, too. So the old stuff you guys didn't want, we got all those things. So
back to the Tomcats.
Wow. Yeah, well, yeah, I know. So I find that really, really interesting. And for people that are listening and are wondering why I find it fascinating, maybe we can do a show on this, especially on Catholic prophecy about what's going to be, has been foreseen over the last 2,000 years that will happen in the early 21st century. And it all looks like a Lord of the Rings, not an episode, but it looks like a Lord of the Rings book.
Yeah.
As far as the technology and the people and the way they're talking about the interactions between troops and armies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's not just because people were, that's all they knew back then. They weren't describing strange, strange rolling turtles or anything that were tanks. It wasn't like Nostradamus or anything like that. So,
and also, interestingly enough, just to finish on that point, is that a lot of those prophecies that were made in the 1900s, even earlier, a lot of there's a good amount of them that have already been coming true.
That's true.
So it's not like us kooky Catholics that are like hiding in our barn and selling all of our stuff, waiting for the apocalypse. Where it's like, no, there's actually, once we get into it on another podcast, you'll quickly realize like, oh, there's actually a lot of truth here that's kind of scary.
Yeah.
Not to be like worried about, but more just, I can't believe I haven't heard about this. And this is actually making
tell
a lot
me more.
tell me more.
So do this if you're on YouTube. Leave in the comments if you want us to do a show like that. If you want us to do a show, we have enough that we can do a pretty detailed show on Catholic prophecy. We can even speculate on a timeline.
Yeah.
If you want us to do that, let us know in the comments. If you're on the audio only platforms, let us know in the on the messages.
And you were going to say something a minute ago. I'm sorry, Joe, we cut you off.
I don't remember. Do you remember what
we were talking? I mean, we were talking about China, Russia, and moving in from different sides and EMPs.
And then I started talking about
like
airborne.
Well, let me just say this. I would say World War III, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about. I mean, when we talk about multiple fronts, multiple countries.
This is World War III.
This is
World War III. It might not be a nuclear war, but it's World War.
Right.
The Third World War.
I really don't think it's. If I had to, bet my money on it, I would really bet not a nuclear war.
Hey, you know what? Real fast on technology, I'm hearing the buzzing too. I know you guys are too.
Yeah.
I think it might be our phones. It's very possible that our phones might be messing these things up. I know from conference calls at the IRS, we had to make sure our phones were off the table because it made like a buzzing noise.
Interesting.
So,
let's power down and just see what happens.
Yeah, that's good. It could be my Bluetooth that's on or something like that. Who knows? Okay, thanks for your patience, guys. We're powering down our phones.
Hopefully the software can take care of some of it.
Yep. Okay, I got to leave the laptop up because that's how I'm recording this. Okay. We'll see.
Yeah, so my thoughts, and I don't want to be a dead horse, but World War III I think would be concerning, and I'm sure we'll be involved in World War III.
Oh, 100%. And I also don't think it'll come to America either, because I think we're just too defensible.
Fighting. Some people might try, but it's not going to get past Washington State.
Yeah, it'll be Napoleon and Russia again.
Yeah. Is it good?
Well, we hope. And I don't think this is a crazy viewpoint to take, but America, we have a problem right now going on in America. It's very easy to be like, from a superpower perspective, we're going to be very involved in World War III. But again, these are just my opinions. This is just what I think. These are just what I formulate. Who knows what's going to happen? The way we're going as a country right now, I cringe when I say this, but when the Democratic Party wants to restructure America, they want to defund the police, they want to silence conservatives. I don't know how it's going to go on, in the future, but just to touch on what happened in Austin with the gun interaction, and because it was an interaction in the sense of the driver fired in self-defense because a protester had the intent to kill, and then as he fired his 9mm at the protester with the AK-47, someone else in the crowd opened fire on the car as he was driving out. So this was. By
the way, did the driver survive?
He did survive, yeah, and called 911 after to tell what happens and make it a legal situation. Right. To me, what worried me about this is that if this happened, this went down, I think in a definitive term, this could be classified as a shootout because two sides of a party,
one guy just
fired upon each other, and one guy did die. So
and there was return fire from that side.
So and especially the way the media is talking about it, most of the media is talking about it being someone fired upon a bunch of peaceful protesters. This is just what I start thinking when I hear these things, is that when these protesters, the more you fire this thing up, the bigger it's going to get, because what I truly believe in my empathetic part is these people feel like they're doing the right thing. Whether they know they're doing the right thing and what they even know what the right thing is, because I don't think they just know what they're doing at all, in the sense of when they come across a cop car and they're like M4s, or like burn Congress or something like that. Like
what's the real repercussion of burning Congress?
Exactly.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. It's not like
Sounds fun.
It's not like we're going to burn Congress, then we're going to go after, move to the next state, and we're going to make our way up to Washington, and
it's not an organized militia.
You know what I mean? And then we're going to change the Constitution and stuff, and we're going to do all these great things.
It's just strategy.
It's this mob
tactics, even.
Yeah, it's just this mob mentality of just chaos. It's just literal chaos.
Yes.
But the way it's spinning is that they know what they're doing. So the dangerous part is when you have a bunch of people who don't know what they're doing in a situation where it can now get to life or death violence. In the case in Austin as a shootout. How many? Well, first of all, I'm just blown away how many people at that protest had guns on them that were part of the protest.
Well, it's in Texas.
It was in Texas. It was in Texas, and anyone who's in Texas, just real quick, that is like, the guy with the AK-47 is not from Texas. He moved to Texas 2 years ago.
Really?
And
that is surprising then.
Yeah. So this wasn't Texas on Texas. I don't believe that would really happen.
From California.
That could happen. Now Austin is the new California. I think most of Texas.
They keep it weird.
They keep it weird. So but so what shocked me is that these protesters had guns, and not that they owned guns, is that they brought these guns to these protests.
So how does this relate to the World War III issue? Do you think that this is like the shot?
I'm getting there.
The shot heard around the world. This is the first
not at all.
action.
No, this is
Make America because maybe this is what you're talking about. When the fall of Rome happened, it was two big things. They were sacked from the outside by barbarians, most like the Franks and stuff like that, the Proto-German countries. And there was a lot of internal turmoil. So I wonder if this is our internal turmoil that other countries start to go, they're at chaos right now. I wonder if this is a good time to strike, because they're not united. They're not looking to fight for, a cause other than themselves right now,
That's a major concern for some. I've heard it.
Yeah. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. I'm not surprised at all. I mean, it sounds like a pretty obvious one. Yeah, and our military numbers are lower than ever. No one's enlisting.
And who's enlisting?
Yeah.
Conservative people.
Yeah, it's true. And there's not enough of them. And also, I've heard recruiters talk about this, that there's just not enough. People are going to get mad at me on Twitter about this, but there's not enough able-bodied Americans. Too many people are too obese, not strong enough, too weak, too shy. They're not capable physically of being in the military. Yeah, they're just not capable. So their pool is so small already of what they're looking for, and then it's not cool to be in the military anymore.
Yeah.
It's not like, I mean, for some people it is, but for the majority of America, it's not like the 1950s when
I wonder?
We got to go out there and kick some Germans. It's, the military sounds kind of dumb. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I'm just saying that I think that's
a lot of people think America's kind of dumb.
Yeah, that's very true. So why would I go die for it and fight in a desert, which isn't necessarily happening anymore, but I think you get my point.
So when we all have this mindset that we're the superpower in the world, we have the most capable military. That might not be the case in 10 years.
I think we have the numbers. 10 years, I totally agree with you.
And then this is my point. This is what I'm trying to get to, that I'm slowly leading up to. But do you want me to just jump to it?
Go for it. Jump to the point.
Jump to the point.
Yes.
No one's thinking about this. We might be on the wrong side in World War III. if this
So now
continues,
you definitely have to explain that one.
yeah.
I'm confused.
We're all ears.
I know.
You should have led with that. We would have been like, what?
That should have started the podcast.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, so let me continue. Yeah. So I'm breaking this down. So we go to this Austin shooting, so we now have, and then our media outlets are spinning a story of these movements are getting gunned down, which is just going to prompt more, because so far the movement has been consequenceless. Is that a word? Without consequence.
Without consequence.
There's not a consequence.
Low
to their
consequence.
actions.
Yeah.
No, the police is standing down.
No to low
National
consequence,
Guard's
yeah.
not stepping in. All the mayors are backing these, movements, and they're pretty violent. And now, but so there's no threat to the people protesting. When you hear a story and you're on the protesting side that someone got gunned down for peacefully protesting, you're now feeling like your life's in threat of, well, it's not going to be this case of, okay, well, we're just not going to protest. It's like, okay, let's start getting guns and weapons and let's get more violent. Look, we're getting attacked.
Right, right.
Yeah, Civil War starts
These
to
damn
break
guys
out.
with concealed weapons are shooting us.
Exactly.
For just protesting.
Yeah, peaceful. I read it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I read the article.
It's
real.
exactly. Yeah. It's
a good point.
Yeah. So it's going to start amping up as far as violent, like side-on-side violence, especially. And again, the protests are happening in a lot of very democratic cities with very tight gun control laws. Austin would probably be the most loosely, as far as if you ask, if you're like, who in the city is most likely carrying, it's probably Austin, Texas. But if this starts,
over like Portland.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying?
But
They got water
But in
guns.
Texas, the culture is still very anti-gun amongst a lot of people that live in Austin.
Yes,
I'm sorry,
that-
not in Texas.
Yes.
For a Texas city, Austin has a very, very
But
anti-gun.
I
culture.
think it's still looser than it is in like Portland,
It's more
where airsoft guns are the devil.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's more likely that there was someone with a gun in Austin, Texas, than all these other cities. So I'm not too surprised that this happens. What I'm more worried about is if this continues to happen, and how big does this movement get, and how many cities do we start going to? Does it stay in Austin? Like in Seattle when they took CHOP, like they took Seattle, and first of all, that was, it was a madhouse. I mean, it was a murder zone.
So let's say it spreads to other cities. How do we end up on the wrong side part?
I'll get to
Yeah.
that.
You got me-
It's going to make sense.
Yeah.
at the
It will?
end.
I hope so.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's going to. I'm walking through so that the whole thing makes sense.
Okay, go ahead. We only have 5 hours on the podcast. So go ahead.
All right. Let's say it starts moving to College Station. Let's start saying it moves to San Antonio and Houston and starts going.
Yeah. Or let's say Austin, Atlanta, Chicago, Kansas City,
New York.
New York, Tacoma, some of the larger cities. It isn't just a Texas spread, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like it starts moving throughout states outside these major democratic
Right.
cities.
Tulsa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's most likely when you start moving outside of these cities, more people are going to be carrying weapons. And when more people start carrying weapons, their lives are going to feel more in threat. And when these things start happening, this idea that we have, as conservatives, is that this is just, this isn't directly threatening, like we talked about, know. But until it does become directly threatening, we can move, but how many people can move?
Most
how
people can't.
And how many people who rightfully own guns see people with AK-47s pointing their window? This happened in St. Louis too. Yeah. I swear, I promise I'm getting to the point. Go ahead. Here's the point. Here's the point of the minor point. The point is that we could escalate to a civil war. We could escalate to a very violent civil war. Okay.
Right. Yeah. You get into the rural sections, the rural cities. I'm now in College Station. I'm ready for you guys.
Exactly.
I heard about the AK thing. And so now it's a freaking hot box.
Yeah.
Ready to
and
explode.
you're from California. We don't take your folk around here. We know what you guys do.
Or anybody that's walking through even on a real peaceful protest without a gun.
Yeah.
I'm loaded.
So I know who these guys are. I know who this leads.
Yeah. We're all super and we have triggers.
Yeah.
And then people get killed. When that
Exactly.
happens. Yeah.
And it could, worst case scenario turns into a literal civil war of exchanging bullets.
So that you know, you probably know this, but also for people listening, that was predicted in Catholic prophecy as well.
Yeah.
That protests would turn.
I didn't know protests.
Protests would turn to revolutions, would turn to civil wars, and then as everybody was distracted with the civil wars, these other things that Will was talking about with the larger engagements will start to move in and just sweep through with very, very little resistance. Because what happened over there? I was
fighting.
It's the Hatfields and
Jim.
McCoys over
Yeah.
here. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting.
Yeah. So and the reason
I think you're dead on. I
Okay.
think that logic, that's not a leap of logic.
Okay.
That's a very, very clean.
That's why I wanted to
path.
slowly make
Very
that instead of
clean
just
path.
jumping to a violent civil war, because you hear that you're like, whoa, that's just not going to happen.
I can see it. I can
We're
see
starting to
it.
get close, you know.
Yeah,
I agree, yeah.
I agree.
Now here's I'm going to keep moving forward. If Joe Biden gets elected, and which he's winning in the polls right now, if he gets elected, two things are either going to happen. He's either going to back if a civil war broke out, he's either going to back the Democratic Party, which means that he's going to use the military and all of the resources as far as
He's going to become
the
the union.
FBI and the anybody, Homeland Security, the National Guard, anybody who has a role in like a military domestic military roles will now be against the conservative
Yeah,
party.
so it'll be like they're the Union and
Or the
they're like-
Confederates.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We don't stand a chance if that happens. Like,
That's actually an incredibly lucid. I mean that's wow, that's blowing my mind thinking about that.
let me keep. Yeah.
I think keep going. Keep going. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm leading up to the punchline.
So the
I thought that was the
that's not the punchline.
Oh,
No,
really?
no,
wow.
I'm leading up there.
So the union, the union in this case, goes quote unquote, Joe Biden and his cronies, they'd be pro-communism or like socialism or something
There we go.
of that thing, and then we'd be the pro-communists.
Well, not only would be
Like America would be
long story short, if we turn into a communist country, China's communist. Russia supports communism.
Yeah.
I think we'd be on the wrong side of a world war.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that if we are a communist country,
those are our allies.
we now are going to side with other communist countries.
Maybe that's why the prophecies don't mention the United States
You know what I mean?
fighting on the good side.
Yeah.
We just might be on the wrong side, you know? And
Dude, that's deep.
That is really interesting.
That's really wow.
Yeah.
That's not a crazy theory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not aliens. you
That's
know?
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's also not like, and then we're all going to, our noses are going to fall off and then something, that could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That could happen. And it's going to be we're the ones in the FEMA camps or the concentration camps within our own country, right?
Yeah.
And then we have
Christians
America.
are going to be prosecuted.
The United States is part of the communist Axis parties, whatever.
Yeah, that'd be pretty insane.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
That's impressive.
yeah, and then you talk. We talk about the prophecies of global communiism. You know, if you take China,
Yeah,
Russia,
we're one of the-
America, on the same side.
The three superpowers.
Who's fighting? Who's able to defend that? You know, there's going to be a war. They're going to try.
Right.
Whoever that is, you know. But I would say that it would be an annihilation, and all of a sudden we now have global communism.
Wow.
And that would fulfill Mary's warning.
And then
you know,
it's
would
just
be.
super
It would.
underdogs like England and Canada and Australia
Yeah.
being like, we have to stop this. But
Yeah.
our big brother just turned on us.
Yeah.
Well, they're the guerrilla fighters at that
Yeah,
point. 'Cause you're
exactly.
right. If all the superpowers, everything's lined up against you. I mean, it's definitely a diabolical.
Yeah, it's the
alignment.
mice fighting the elephants.
It
Yeah.
definitely is. Wow, that actually a little bit of hair stuck on my back of my neck on that one.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
And I don't want to get too concerned because, like I said at
No.
the beginning of this, you know, I have my faith. You know,
yeah. We're not worried.
You know,
We're not worried.
but
We're ready, prepared, but not worried.
yeah. It's just it's going to be an interesting 20 years. Let's just say that. You know, it's going to be
Okay, so if you have
20 years.
if you're listening and you have 70 acres to sell,
Yeah,
definitely
contact us.
DM us.
Yes.
Yeah. Start praying.
Yeah. Interesting, at least I think so. I guess book idea kind of as a spin-off of what you're saying, or even like movie idea. Let's say like something similar like that, happens, but the Civil War continues, and it gets to the point where, let's say it's like, this is total fiction, but like 50 years down the road, us as like the Confederates, you would say, versus the Union. We both have strong enough armies that it's now half of America is fighting half of America, but globally. So it's West Coast versus East Coast, but West Coast is with, or East Coast is with like the Allies, and then the West Coast is with the Axis. So like it's America fighting itself, but on it like inside the country, but then also like one side's helping Russia and China, and the other side's helping. I think that'd just be an interesting like
it would be.
book concept.
Actually, you should start writing that. Write that book before it would be like Tom Clancy. You know, like wow, how did he see this coming? Because I don't think you're far off.
Yeah,
I think without some type of intervention beyond what a lot of people can imagine, I certainly can't imagine it. And by the way, it's not just Donald Trump getting elected, because then you're just 4 years. Then you're just maybe pushing it out 4 years.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, an assassination can happen. You know, whatever.
That too, but even just the next election.
No. I'm saying if you said maybe 4. Oh, I see what you're saying. I get you.
You're pushing it out another 4 years until the next election. 2024 election, and then that could very well happen. Interesting.
That's a super interesting theory.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. It's not far off. Like
I don't know
if I saw like into a well of like what the future holds, and I saw that, I'd be like, wow, that's actually not that crazy.
Yeah.
After hearing that, I'd be like,
totally see
yeah,
it.
that makes sense.
And it would happen 1, 2, 3, like you said.
Yeah.
And before we knew it, we'd be China and be like, what happened?
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
We'd be hiding away in the mountains somewhere or under the streets in New York.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things, and I saw something too that you know, and it kind of touches my point that
That's crazy. My mind's pretty blown.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
totally
pretty
blown.
wild.
I can't follow that.
No, yeah, I'm picturing like us now taking down like as like the Confederate side, like fighting in like a war as like we're the revolutionists against
I think you
the
could safely
communist
say
America.
the conservative side.
And
You know,
I
what I
agree.
mean? Because
I agree.
We're all racist bigots, and
yeah,
you know.
But I could see us going and doing like acts of quote unquote terror against the communist America,
Guerrilla warfare.
Yeah, and taking down like their monuments in D.C. or in California where they have them. I'm just all picturing in my head right now, and it's actually blowing my mind.
Yeah,
you
you
could-
know,
it would be great. It would be a great movie too.
yeah.
Patent pending. No,
That's right.
Yeah, and if someone doesn't write it first,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I'm looking for a ghostwriter all
That's
of a sudden,
right, that's
unrelated.
To DM me.
Yeah.
Wow.
I could talk more about this, but I don't know how interested you are in me talking more about it.
We're almost at 3 hours.
Oh wow,
So
Yeah, that's a good. We can,
you wanna-
I think that was
yeah.
yeah.
Let's call it.
Something to think about.
Yeah. Okay. So, like, share, subscribe. If you have an option to like, share, subscribe, and we might be away for about a week because a couple of us are going on vacation, stuff like that. So we'll be split up. But we hope to have a show for you as soon as that's over. And signing off.
Yeah.
Dad.
Jack.
Will and Hannah behind the board.
Hannah behind the board. Thank you very much. And we'll see you next time on the Manhunter Show.
All right, bye.
See you guys.